Welcome to the Gibberfish Podcast.
Well, we may be melting into our chairs, but we're here to talk Gibberfish, aren't we, Dom?
Yeah, it's an odd sunny day in bonny Scotland here.
It's oddly
Uh,
muggy and I don't like it at all.
Oh, dude, yesterday was hellish, absolutely fucking hellish. It was nasty and humid and good old UK word that was claggy.
Yes.
And I'd describe claggy as being the heat and the sweatiness that you feel in your genitals, like you feel it in your balls.
Claggy is reference to the ancient Scots word clag, which is the definition of sweat that touches both the inner thigh and the ballsack.
Yeah. Or the vaginal area on the womb.
the vaginas.
I was going to say beef curtains, but I was like, I can't say that. I can't say that.
At a certain point, like, it is weird how much we're willing to we'll throw every male terminology at every joke we can, but the second you start talking about women's genitals, you're like, I kind of don't want to say any word just because it sounds like I'm going to say something weird that'll freak someone out, or it'll be someone's least favourite word. Like the number of people who get freaked out by the word moist. That.
Oh, yeah. I remember I at college, for my first year, we had to give a speech, and like we were talking about what people's favourite things are, and I was talking about my favourite things are a good record, and we had to do a little introduction. I said, your favourite thing may vary. Your favourite thing might be a nice cold beer. Your favourite thing might be a slice of moist cake. I thought this was a totally innocuous sentence, and then every woman in the room, including my lecturer, just went, ugh. Just that visible and audible shudder. Just, don't say that word.
Just
What's
that
wrong
kind
with
of
the word moist.
roll of the shoulders is kind of the little shudder. Yeah.
Yeah, and the hands always go off to the right, and I kind of, get that away.
Yeah. Well, we're running a bit late. I was busy laughing my ass off at Super Eye Patch's new review of Shenmue 3. He just finished the game for the second time, and he started talking about it in his podcast, the Let's Fight a Boss podcast, which he does. I think he started doing like once a week because they're all in lockdown. So it's like we might as well just hang out and talk. It helps with the sanity. And he sounded like he was in pain on that podcast. I was like, how bad could it possibly be? And then his like 40-minute video of him breaking down everything he doesn't like about the game, including I think the point that really got me was his step-by-step guide on how to buy a bottle of wine in the game. I was in fucking tears. Because the game is just so ancient in its way of thinking, because it's made by a guy who, back in the day, was a genius. So he's stuck with that mindset of this is how game mechanics should work, this is a logical game progression, and this is how the mechanics of the progression should be. He's so set in that mindset that when he makes a game in 2019 / 2020, it doesn't translate very well. So watching him break down this like good chunk of, I think he said it was about 2 or 3 hours of gameplay, was him trying to buy a bottle of wine, and his understanding of what was going on at the time is absolutely hysterical. And I'm never going to play the series, so I went all the way through the video just with all the spoilers, and I can see why people got mad after 19 years of waiting for the game.
Yeah, I tried, and people who pay attention to the Twitter, at Gibberfish on Twitter, know that I gave Shenmue 1 the old collegiate try, and it didn't work. That game is just, I don't get it. Whereas I understand that Shenmue 1 and 2 are regarded as masterpieces in their own right because of when they came out, what they came out on, and the types of games that they were, and the types of games that are being released alongside it. I 100% understand why these games are masterpieces. But when I played them in 2020, after just playing Resident Evil 3 on Xbox, nah, I don't get the hype. I don't understand why these games are still so revered.
I think they're revered for the place they hold in people's minds at the time, and it becomes really hard to have the conversation now about how do we regard a game that is that old but that has that fan legacy built into it. Then it happens with a lot of different stuff. You can end up with just the memory of how it plays in your head, and I know that there are a lot of games for me. The big one for me was Borderlands. I love Borderlands so much. I went back to play it and realised that this game is not at all how I remember it. It is mechanically different. It is of a certain time. And although it's still good, I still enjoyed good parts of it. I found myself really stuck, saying this is not how I remember it, and that's very hard for new people coming in, hearing all the praise, hearing all the adoration fans have for games like Shenmue, and then coming into it with their own the preconceptions built in from the fan interactions, and then having to just live through a weird experience that is not anything like what you thought it was, and all you have to compare it to is your previous gameplay, which might have actually been built on like what Shenmue did. A lot of people point to the similarities between Shenmue and Grand Theft Auto, and also Grand Theft Auto. I think it's the third one, Vice City. No, Vice City might be four. No, it's Grand Theft Auto 3 is just the third one.
Yeah, there was the top-down GTAs, then 3, then Vice City and San Andreas were kind of 3.5 and 3.8 or some shit.
Yeah, and then there was 4 and then 5. So yeah, I think that the like the having to like everyone, I guess everyone has put their hands on Grand Theft Auto at some point, with even just some limited experience, and then had if you go back to Shenmue, which is a precursor to all of that, you end up with a totally different gameplay experience. And yeah, I can't imagine it's a lot of fun to try and have to think objectively about something you want to criticize in a weird way. Like you have to kind of remove yourself from everything you learned before to play a game like this, because it is so of one mind. It is from its creator's mind, and there's no other influences on it. The guy apparently gave an interview about how he was developing Shenmue 3 and said that no modern games are influencing his decision and design process on Shenmue 3. I'm like, uh-oh, that's not good. I'm sorry, you can't just port a game from when analog sticks were a brand new thing to the modern generation of gamers,
Yeah.
and expect it to work out well.
Yeah, it's funny when you get the quote-unquote old genius who just say, for example, with Shenmue, he made 2 games very critically acclaimed back in the day on Dreamcast, and just thought, yeah, let's just keep that ball rolling and keep it exactly the same way, but with better looking graphics.
Yeah, you kind of want to turn to him and say, sir, 2 generations of console have passed since you made a game like this.
There's been some updates, there's been some developments.
I read an article once that explains that if you think you're about to be fired and you're going in for that meeting with management to discuss your future at the company, never bring up the phrase, "Do you know how long I've worked here?" Because it will immediately age you in the conversation. It will immediately put everyone just aware of just how long you've been around. And I think that might be the case here, where this game is a definitive statement of, do you know who I am? Do you know what I've done for this company? And all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, you're that old. Okay, that explains a lot. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're probably the right age for mandatory retirement.
Mm-hmm. We have an opportunity for you. It's called not working here anymore. Goodbye.
It's called gardening leave.
We will even help pay for the garden if you like. Just leave. But yeah, I found that very interesting. Just watching such a detailed breakdown of why he he basically says the last 19 years of my life have been a waste of time. And I'm like, oh my god, that's the saddest thing he's ever said in a video, and this man comes out with some very heartfelt statements. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I'd highly recommend it. If you're not a Shenmue fan, I think iPatchWolf does a great job of introducing you to why Shenmue is so important with his first video, which is just about the legacy of Shenmue with 1 and 2. He's got the footage from the remastered game so you can see what it looks like. And then his breakdown about what happens with Shenmue 3 is just a sad end to the trilogy. But we talked off mic about a friend of ours who has made a video describing how he would fix the game with something else, not Shenmue. But I think he actually did a very good job of, like iPatchWolf does a very good job of actually making that statement work, because it's kind of arrogant to presume that you can say this is how I would definitively fix a piece of your art. But I think he makes a good point of how he would have ended the storyline of it, because he says, look, I can't fix the game, but if I was going to fix the story, here's what I'd do. And he actually starts with he actually starts with saying, look, it's bad. It's a bad thing for me to try and say I can fix someone else's game, but I mean, I haven't even worked in the medium, so this comes with a pinch of salt. But here's my fix.
Yeah, that's like me being a lawyer doing like walking into a video game director's office and say, "Look, Resident Evil 3. Here's how I would have done it." Like, dude, go back to solving criminal cases. We have games work to do. I'm never going to be in that realm, so why should my opinion matter?
Yeah.
Or why should my opinion be the definitive fix for an area where I'm not a specialist?
Yeah.
I just think that fans, right? This is going to sound kind of cunty, but it's genuine. My thoughts on it. Fans should be allowed a voice, but I think they need to realize where their voice. They need to learn the difference between their voice being valued and their voice being needed. Because I think there's no game developer up and down the country. Take Neil Druckmann from The Last of Us 2. He's not going to turn you away. He's not going to say, "Look, your opinion is shit." But at the same time, he doesn't need your opinion. He will listen to it.
Yeah.
He will gladly sit and talk shop with you about Last of Us Part 2. But at the same time, he's made Uncharted 1, 2, 3, and 4. Uncharted Lost Legacy. Last of Us Part 1. Last of Us Part 2. The guy knows how to make a game.
Yeah.
Your opinion is not necessary. And again, that's a bit of a harsh way of saying it, but you're passionate, fucking great. Just read the room is all I'm going to say on that.
It's a fine line to walk because it is a case of passion, and I think I was about to say I wonder if it's this bad in other communities. It's like the nerd community is horrific for it. We really need to shut the fuck up and let creators create. But I think that just comes from being so passionate about certain things that we can't help but mouth off when someone says something about a franchise or a game or an idea that we want to have our opinion heard on it because we just love it so much. Like that's part of nerd culture has always been the debate, the back and forth. But then I remember, like, it happens elsewhere. I mean, think about the concept of Monday morning quarterbacking. Like, the number of people who go in after watching Sunday night football and have opinions and ideas on how, with hindsight, they would have fixed the big play from last night's game, or people who are watching, like, the motorsports. There's a lot of motorsport fans coming out the woodwork right now because of the only game in town. I've actually been told that I should start watching motorsports. Sorry, bro, it's not going to happen. Just not going to do it. Like, I've seen some fascinating videos from motorsports, but frankly, I'll just tune in at the end of the year and watch the crash highlight reel. That seems like how I'm going to enjoy motorsports. And I just, like, there's all those people who come in on the Monday morning after the big game, and just say, I would have fixed it. I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have went left. I'd have went right. I'd have zigged when he should have zagged, you know? There's a lot of people who walk in with that opinion. I think it's just part of our response is to think we innately know better than whoever did the thing.
Oh, without a doubt, I get that on before we went into lockdown. Back when I was playing rugby every Saturday for 8 out of the 12 months of the year, whenever I would step off the pitch, there would always be some fan or some club member that used to play rugby 40 fucking years ago. Will come up to me and go, "Son, this is what you should have done. You should have went with the old forearm tackle." Like, the forearm tackle's been banned for 20 years.
Sir, that's illegal.
That's illegal. And what's even worse is you get people that have never played rugby, or they've played rugby once when they were a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, I only played rugby once when I was a kid, but see, wee man, what you should have done was you should have just fucking dropped the shoulder and dropped them. Like, go away.
I like as well that the criticism of someone who has only played rugby once when they were young as a kid is the very basic rugby criticism of you should have dropped the shoulder and dropped him. Like, that is the very basic level of information they would give you.
Yeah.
As if you weren't thinking of that.
I'm not a fan of the armchair politicians, the armchair coaches, the armchair athletes who, say, I could have done that better. Well, there's a reason why you're 5 stone overweight watching the Scotland game in your living room, and Stuart Hogg is running pitch lengths to score tries. Like, he can do that. You can't. It's simple, training and dedication.
If you could do that, why didn't you fucking do it?
Yeah,
and it's done that. I think of it as like kind of put up or shut up, really, and it's just something we all do, and it's just something to be kind of. Yeah. I like to think people would be a bit more mindful of it, just to try and say, look, I'm just mouthing off. I really don't need to express myself on this one. I should just maybe take a back seat for a little bit.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to what we spoke about last week. People get involved when it's something that they're passionate about. Like we were talking about YouTube, when you see something on YouTube and just say it's your favorite YouTube gamer, and they're playing your favorite game let's say for example, Gears of War 2. You're like, nah, man, what you need to do there is you need to go there, and there. Like, we get it, you're passionate, but different strokes. Let him play your way. Let him play his way. Let you play your way. They're both valid. They're both worth their weight. Just be a bit more open and don't think that your way is the only way. Open-mindedness is what we're trying to practice here.
Yeah, and I'd say if you really want an interesting perspective on it, look at, I think it's maybe Jeff Ramsey from Achievement Hunter probably said it a couple of times, but they've been talking about how they receive really weird criticism because on the one hand they receive criticism for being bad gamers, but on the other hand they receive criticism as entertainers. So those are like two different things that they try and meld together in videos that they do. So they have like the option of being incredibly proficient gamers, but not being very entertaining. And that's something they can't really do because in order to be an entertainer as just a good gamer, you have to be like an esports level gamer. You have to be like a Shroud or like an esports competitor. You have to be on that top like 0.1% of gameplay, which not everyone can achieve. So in order to be entertainers, they go with comedy. So that's why they might fuck up. Maybe not on purpose, but they're more willing to fuck up if it makes for a good video. There's a lot of things going on in the background that you might not understand as the outsider looking in.
Yeah. If I was ever to do Twitch streams, which I'm not going to lie, I kind of want to dabble in at least once to say that I've tried it, but it's not a massive bucket list thing. If I was to do that, I'd go for entertainment over competence. Like I'd rather play a game in a way that people enjoy, and not just be crit pathing my way through a game, deciding I go this way, I go this way, I go this way, and then the game's over. Great.
Well, here is the most efficient way to get through Resident Evil, and there's a community for that. Hence, the speedrunning community. Yeah. There are people who do that very well, and you have to find where you want to stand on that spectrum of proficiency and entertainment. And if you can make proficiency into entertainment by going so far left you end up on the right, that's great. But not a lot of people can do that, so you have to try and balance it. And I will say, having done a couple of Twitch streams, it is very fun to try and work that line. It is very hard to do. It is hard to decide when you want to be funny, when you want to be good, and just maintaining a good flow is kind of weird. It's worth it. I definitely recommend it. If you're interested, let me know. I'll help you out in any way I can. But it's weird. It's strange. You don't think about it that much, and then you overthink it, and it's like, oh shit.
If I was going to do a Twitch stream, I'd probably like to do it with someone just to kind of bounce, bits off of, and just I sounded dirtier than I meant it to. Just bounce bits off of, just banter back and forth, that kind of shit. But I'm quite glad that you mentioned that you brought up the whole trying to tread the line of competence and entertainment, because that's going to lead me into a point that I'm going to be making later. So glad you brought that up.
Well, I'll just say I am absolutely open to helping you stream in any way you want. Let me know. We'll sort something out. And
I say we bring the Gibberpish to Twitter, to Twitch.
Yeah.
Fuck Twitter.
Bro, Periscope is a viable streaming platform, okay? You can go live with the push of a button. I have you know that it is a very profitable margin of all of 5 people watching Periscope these days, my friend.
Twitter, you goddamn cocksucker. I'm not going to give you any more exposure. It's fucking Twitch or go fuck your mother.
It's Twitch with live streaming or go fuck your mother. We're doing it Joey Diaz 2020 style. I get the I get the idea of like just going for it. It's worth it just to try, and we'll sort stuff out. We'll probably talk about it more off mic. I didn't know you were interested, so I was like, ooh, cool, we'll do this, because we were talking about video essays before we went on, and I was going to ask, have you ever done stuff like video essays before, like with a very like strategic point to make? Have you ever sat and done one of those before? Because it's an interesting creative process.
I have. Like, oddly enough, I did a video essay for a project that I did with a youth group that I used to work for, and it was a church in Bowness that their youth program I went through when I was a kid, and then when I was of the right age, I was looking for a job, and the person that ran that said, "Oh, dude, I've known you since you were 4 years old. You absolutely can come down and help out." And we did a video essay on it was some kind of.
Please tell me you're in some cringy anti-drug commercial, like Just Say No. Hugs not drugs, huggity.
Yeah, I did a Just Say No thing. I can't remember what the hell it was, but it was a video essay on basically uh, we got tasked by the leader of the youth group. We had to basically go around and do a short 20-minute sort of speech or talk about what you think is properly important. Because I think the minister at the time was going to put it into his sermon, and yeah, it was quite weird just talking because I think we recorded 40 to 50 minutes worth of footage, and then it was my job to kind of cut it down, which was a fun day. I can tell you that much. This is why I am so glad that you are as competent an editor as you are, because editing is a foreign language to me. I don't get it. Like, pat yourself in the back, Colin. You do it, but you do it, so I don't have to.
I have a weird fascination with editing. I enjoy it as a process of like, for us, the podcast is very minimal editing. If anyone's like, dude, you take out like 5-minute conversations, I take it.
You take out your own rampant hatred of Sherpas, and you're good.
I really have to, because frankly, I mean,
doesn't go by without you going fucking Sherpas, man.
they need to suffer, but I can't let them know it's coming. Okay, I have to kind of. It needs to be kept private and then released at once, built up in private, released at once, like alcoholism.
They need to think it's pure, then fine.
Yeah, they can't see it coming. But when it comes to video editing, it is an entirely different beast. The podcast is edited very minimal. We go through, do some audio, like some just balancing checks to make sure there's no random spikes, and then I take out any weird things that happen. Like if we accidentally slap a microphone, it happens more than you think. I try and take that out, but beyond that, for the podcast, there is very minimal. When it comes to video editing and making a presentable YouTube video that you want people to see, the way I think of it is, how would you feel if someone you know closely found the video? I want stuff I make to be acceptable to that level, so I don't make stuff like I could throw out random like live stream videos at any given point, but I don't want to make that. I want to make something that's a bit more concrete. I want to make something that's considered and edited and selective and very to the point. I don't like to waffle too much, but I think that on the flip side, when you have the podcast or when we have Twitch streams, that actually kind of goes away and it gives you a much more relaxed feeling. I don't know what it is. There's something about the fact you can just sit and hang out and just play some games and just chill and be there in the moment. I think that's very enjoyable experiences. That's probably the thing I enjoy the most about Twitch compared to other like social media platforms.
Yeah. It's kind of a weird thing. You've actually just kind of put my mind back to that, because I remember there was a lot of swearing that I had to edit out of the video essay.
There you go.
Because most of the people in the video, I was the oldest at 24.
Mm-hmm.
This was a while ago. This was almost 5 years ago. I was the oldest, and everyone else, the youngest below me was 22. Then it was just some of the other sort of junior members of the youth group, the junior leaders. They were just every 5 seconds, and it was just, so what's fucking important to me? And I was like, dude, you can't swear. Albert, the minister, is literally going to present this on Sunday morning to your granny, your uncles, your aunties, your mums, your dads. You can't swear, right? Okay. So what's fucking important to me, dude?
Guys, fucking is a swear. I know we all use it as punctuation, but it's a bad word to normal people. Scottish people
I get
just aren't
that
normal
shite
people.
is a comma to you, but calm it down.
That's actually like an old memory of mine, is that we tried to film something, and we were given like a script. It was me and James and someone else, and we were told to just walk through the woods reading the lines, just as a kind of like a demo version of something that someone wanted to film. And it was garbage. The video was horrific. We were trying to shoot in a forest in daylight. If you've ever shot in a forest in daylight, it's a nightmare. I hate trying to balance the light levels. It's a fucking nightmare doing it now. But I kept swearing reading the line, and when I kept messing up the lines as well, because I'm not good reading off a script. I'm much better just kind of off the cuff, and even then I'm not good at that. But when it comes to actually,
I'm a surgeon at improv. I will make up lines on the spot.
But like reading off a script is a nightmare for me for some reason, just especially when you're combining it with walking. Like I am never gonna hit the stage as a big actor. It's gonna be an absolute nightmare if I do. Half of my lines will be me.
You talk yourself down.
half of my lines will be me yelling line.
Graham as King Lear will happen.
You know what? Let's make it happen. Let's go right now and make King Lear, me as King Lear happen. But
yeah, let's do it.
Every time I fucked up, I would swear. So I would mess up the line. I'd waffle something. I'd get a line wrong. I'd mispronounce, or something would happen, and you see me go fuck. And then it wasn't until like the other friend who was filming was like, you know I'm showing this to my parents, right? I was like, oh, oops.
Oh shit! You need to do this again from
Yeah.
the top, damn it.
Take 4. Take 40. Oh shit, my bad, sorry. Didn't realize I'd messed it up that many times. Like, yeah, it was a funny afternoon, but wasn't funny when you think about it, looking back.
Yeah. You also get the people that take it too seriously. Because I remember, again, same youth group, someone wanted to shoot a short film as and they had to present something to a university or a college course that they wanted to get into. And they said, right, like, Dom, could you, like, you're kind of older looking, do you mind being the older sort of father figure in this? And I'm like, yeah, sure, I'm only, 4 years older than you, but what the fuck? And they said, right, you be this, you be that. And one of the lines I had to read was, really, kiddo, you're going to pull that one on me? And I don't know what it is. I said, every time they just said, stop. Is this amateur hour? Are we really doing it this way?
Is this amateur? Yes, because I'm an amateur.
I mean, at this point, I was a chef, not an actor.
I'm a born thespian. That's why I work the Fargo shift.
Yes, that's why I am a sous chef. Chef de partie.
I'm a born and bred thespian. That's why I cut carrots for a living.
Yeah, this is why I make nachos and lentil soup for a living, and make dick jokes.
It's a weird one. Like the passion in filmmaking is so fervent, and I'm part of like filmmaking subjects. So I love the filmmaking process, and I love to understand more about what's going on. But
I think everybody at some point has had that idea of just like, I'm going to start recording something. I'm going to start. I mean, it led to us making a podcast. But
yeah,
I think everyone has had that. I'm going to go and make video essays on the internet, or I'm going to start recording myself. And some people make a living out of it.
There's something that is very. I love the fact that we can, at the end of this, in like 4 hours, when we're finished talking about random nonsense, we will have a thing. We will have a finished thing, or an almost finished thing that we can then just craft and mold, do the little like polishes on it, and then we will have a thing that we can give to people and say, "Here, we made this thing, and now we give it to you." And I think there's something
Here
that's
is
quite
a collection
enjoyable.
of us making dick and fart jokes.
Here are 4 hours of my thoughts. You didn't ask for it, but here you go anyway. You know.
See, I always wanted to do one. If I ever did a YouTube channel, I had this dumb idea because I watch too much comedy. I listen to too many comedy podcasts. I watch too much, particularly Scottish comedy, and I wanted to have this idea. I had this idea for a kind of sketch or a video that would go up, and it would be presented absolutely seriously. The thumbnail would be me, just kind of looking all thoughtful and looking off into the distance. Me looking all artsy and shit in the thumbnail.
Yeah.
But the video was just literally me. The video would be titled "My Thoughts and Inner Monologues," and it would just be me going.
I am down to film that the second the lockdown is over. I have the camera, I have the microphone. We can record. Like I can give you the microphones we have. We can use that for the dubbing over of your fart noises of your inner monologue. We can spend.
Dude, I was going to mix it up. I was going to change it to the duck noise, just doing like an oh, doing that kind of shit.
I will spend 40 minutes rotating around you on a fucking rock with the camera just so we get enough footage that's usable for 2 minutes of that video. I am so fucking down for that. Ladies, there is actually, if you're interested, a Gibberpish YouTube channel which is used to host season 0 of the podcast, and I get the feeling there'll be a video up there very, very soon.
Yeah, but I've given that one away now. I want to do something different.
No, we got to do it. We promised. I promised.
I also had another sketch idea for the world's most incompetent police officer.
Right,
Like,
I have a
goes-
file on my Google Drive that is just sketch ideas. We will go through this off mic because I do want, like, as much as I say we're going to do it because we promised it, I do want to hit some people with surprise sketches.
Oh yeah, dude. Like, because my head's just full of nonsense, especially nowadays.
This is the thing about filmmaking. This is why people get so into it, is because you just sit there, you have a dumb idea, and you go, "Wouldn't it be funny if we film that?" And you go, "Actually, that's pretty doable. We could do that. I have like next Wednesday off." This is why I enjoy it.
Yeah, and we're now in phase 3 of lockdown, so we can, visit.
Yeah,
You can have visitors. How funny would it be if I just had the mask on? Right, I had the mask and the gloves on. I'm just going. And you don't see my mouth move. You just see the mask kind of puff out a little bit every so often.
We have the face, we have the mask, but we still have you in it's the Michelangelo, like the thinking man pose with the fist under the chin, but with the mask and the gloves on. we're doing this. This is happening right now. Right, so we need to end the podcast right now to film something because it's the golden hour. We can get some really good shots, and if we rush like right now, we can go for it.
Yeah, and I live near the woods, so we can get plenty of cool shots there.
Yeah, and it will save us talking about a much more depressing subject, which is, I mean, we've talked a little bit about this this type of thing, where we've talked about criticism and cancel culture and stuff like that. But I really want to just stand here and take a little bit of a swing at our current like press coverage of Johnny Depp's slander lawsuit. Now, I know that obviously we've all been locked down for 4 months. I think we passed like day 100 just before we recorded the last podcast, which means we're now probably at day 120, which is...
I think we're sitting at day 121, because it's been about 3 weeks since we recorded the last podcast.
Yeah, and that it does suck, and I would give anything to have something else to talk about other than what I watched on Netflix and current coronavirus updates. But the breakdown of a marriage is not it. And watching Johnny Depp go through his slander lawsuit, I am disgusted at our news coverage of basically the worst moments in two people's lives. So for those of you who don't know, Johnny Depp is taking The Sun, which is a newspaper here in the UK, to the court for calling him a wife beater after allegations made by Amber Heard, which was his one-time wife. They went through the usual kind of cancel cycle, but then went to court because of Depp and Heard's divorce. And then evidence came out that Amber Heard was not the saint she claimed to be. And
she also shot the bed.
yeah, that's in there as well.
Amber Heard.
She may have chopped off a chunk of his finger and also shat on the bed, which was apparently the moment Johnny Depp decided to file for divorce, which, frankly, yeah, understandable. And then I get the feeling that like we have a problem, and this is something that actually was pointed out to me by a friend of mine who came over from the United States, and she wanted to see the UK. So we spent a couple of days traveling around, but she like was randomly picking up newspapers and stuff just to see what we live like, because you know she's an American. She's lived out on like in roughly the South and on the East Coast for so long. Like that's who she is to the core, which makes it really weird that right now she would give anything to be out of America. But she, it might be the fact she does COVID testing. Let's find out. But she picked up newspapers and was just appalled at the level of like tabloid news journalism and paparazzi and just this obsession we have with celebrity. And like I'm now seeing it. And now I get it. It's like 8 years too late after she left for the last time. But yeah, I get it now. I see why. If you look at it from the outside, when you stop and take a look back at what's actually going on with this Johnny Depp case, because as I say, it is them going over the worst moments of their lives to prove in court that someone did something wrong. And when you see that being played out for this weird, ghoulish journalism, that it's just every detail of this becomes its own headline. Like every statement made by Amber Heard about Johnny Depp and every statement by Johnny Depp about Amber Heard becomes a new article of its own. I just take a step back and think and look at what's going on and say, could you imagine if this was happening to your friend? Could you imagine if this happened to somebody you know? It's horrifying. And I don't even like Johnny Depp that much. I mean, I like him as Captain Jack Sparrow. Absolutely fantastic role. I was actually looking into it. Like the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie came out 5 years before Iron Man. And I think you could easily compare Johnny Depp as Captain Jack Sparrow to Tony Stark or Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark.
Yeah, they're kind of comparable. And they're...
But
I'd say that they're both the bumbling idiot trope, but actually is a genius.
Well, more along the lines of the idea of leading a... like the fact that Johnny Depp basically carried that franchise. That's why there's 5 films with him and only like 2 or 3 with Orlando Bloom. You know?
Yeah.
Like he's carrying a multi-billion-dollar franchise 5 years before Iron Man comes out. That's insane. That's just not a normal life. I don't think a normal person can lead that life, and I don't think a normal person should be subjected to the... not the scrutiny of... like, everyone should be subject to the scrutiny of the courts, but not everyone should be subject to the scrutiny of the tabloid, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Basically, just the way you just said, there was courts, yes. Tabloids, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, definitely. And it's just you're watching a really shitty divorce being played out again for just the court, and I hate every second of it. It's really ghoulish. I just can't stand the news journalism covering it. I can't stand there's just a weird tone of voice people use on even on like the radio when I'm hearing about this, and then you find it plastered all over Twitter when you go home from work, and you're like, this is what we choose to distract ourselves from a global pandemic, from I just try to figure out our history and our relationship with each other, as far as like race relations are concerned. This is what we choose to indulge in when we don't want to deal with that. I feel bad about us in a way. Like I feel bad about civilization. If that makes it's a bit much to take from like a divorce, but at the same time, like I stand by it. Like I don't like who we are right now.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. For me, it was just more people seem to be very much more interested in, you know, which celebrities falling out with which celebrity or which celebrities getting divorced, as opposed to, you know, the very real threat of, you know, the black population of America being further, you know, threatened and, you know, being at the heel of racial inequality, or the very, very real threat of the fucking C virus, coronavirus. Yet we're supposed to just go, oh, Johnny Depp and Amber Heard are having a divorce, and
They've got
there's
such a wacky
defamation
relationship.
lawsuit.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's defamation court action going on as well. I'd rather, you know, I'd rather see what the response to, what people have to say about Portland.
Yeah.
Excuse me, and the response to apparently England is on the cusp of developing a COVID vaccine. I'd rather hear about that, but no, let's take 5 minutes over fucking days and read about Amber Turd and Johnny Dope.
Yeah. Like, if you want to give us a distraction, you can still give us the content that we really need to know about with Black Lives Matter protests, with the arrival of secret police in the fucking United States, that apparently we're just there just waiting for the deployment order. And then you can give us those news stories, but you can give us the uplifting content, the distraction in that context. Like, we can find out about how, you know, as everyone's on lockdown, here are the people making life better for each other. Here are the people who are, you know, treating the wounded that come back from these protests after, you know, a bullet or after like a rubber bullet hits someone in the head. These are the people that like trained to help those people. Give us that content as a way of uplifting the spirits, because all this is a distraction. All this is just something else to look at while we don't think about what's really going on out there. And I want to see a bit more of I mean, especially with this all being related to The Sun. The Sun is a fucking trash newspaper. They are the only newspaper to be basically locked out of a city in the UK. For those of you who don't know, there was a tragedy at a Liverpool football stadium, and at one point many people died. The Sun covered it, slagging off the Liverpool fans, and the entire city of Liverpool refuses to buy The Sun to this day. That was 20 years ago. They just don't sell copies of The Sun in Liverpool. That is the level of trash we're discussing, instead of something going on that matters, that we can distract ourselves on with good stories. You know, that we're looking at the dark side of the coin all the time. We could flip it over, find uplifting news there that's still relevant. It's still part of the coin. It's still part of the issue. But we can find better things to occupy ourselves with.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know my thoughts on, you know, celebrity status. I personally couldn't give any less of a fuck about, you know, what the hell Robert Downey Jr. is doing. Like, cool, he was Iron Man, but if I ever meet him in the street, I'm not going to lose my shit.
Yeah.
I personally don't get the fascination with celebrity.
Yeah.
I get some people, that's their lives. Cool. I personally couldn't give less of a shit, and I'd rather be kept up to date about the important things, you know.
Yeah, I'll skip over the story of Charlize Theron's dog dying in favor of something else that might actually matter. I honestly, by the way, I hope Charlize Theron's dog didn't actually recently die. I've somehow predicted the future in some weird way. Like, I hope that doesn't happen in the next couple of days. Like, the podcast is in itself cursed. We know this to be true, but I hope I don't accidentally predict something.
Yeah, I mean, no one wants their dog to die.
I want to say I was hoping to find a joke where I'd be like, I don't know, man, but I can't think of Cujo. There we go, Cujo, the dog from Stephen King book. Yeah, maybe those people
Yeah.
they'd be okay with that one.
Yeah, I'll give you that one.
But yeah, I think I just need to rant about that. I haven't had everyone that I talked to couldn't give two shits either, but I needed to get that one off my chest. I hate that this weird celebrity cult we have going on, and it just reminds me of that one episode of South Park where they obsess over Britney Spears to the point of getting her to kill herself, but it's all part of a plan because it helps the crops grow. Some really weird spin on like Wicker Man or some shit like that. But yeah, I just thank you for letting me get that one off my chest.
No, no problem at all. I mean, you've let me rant about quite a few things in this show, so I really don't mind sharing the spotlight. One thing I have noticed, and I think you probably noticed it as well, during lockdown, do you find that your fuse is just shorter than it usually is?
It's fucking
For
gone.
dumb shit.
It is
I think I have.
absolutely gone.
I think I have the tiniest piece of detonation wire left. So if that starts sparking, I will just lose the rag extremely quickly.
My
And I think that's
fuse
because we're
is
not going out as much as we're not going out into the world as much as we used to.
we're
so you
not
don't
working
really
out as
interact with
much.
as many
We're not
people as you used
running.
to.
We're not cycling. We're not swimming.
Yep.
We're not actually getting anything out of our bodies. We're just taking in all this shit, and it's just sitting there and festering.
Yeah, and you're kind of just building up all this built up. You're kind of just sitting there waiting for the opportunity to vent all this built up anger, and it's over dumb shit. Like, I was watching the Xbox event, and they showcased some phenomenal games, and the YouTube chat that I was watching go past at the speed of light was just Xbox is awful, Xbox is awful, Game Pass is the worst deal in gaming, and I was just like, motherfucker, shit that would never usually annoy me, but as soon as I seen it, I was like, dude, you realize that Xbox Game Pass is a fucking steal at £15 a month.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's
And
just
that was
pissed me
before
off.
they threw in the gold package as well, like where you could get the Xbox Game Pass with gold subscription at the same time.
And it was
a steal, yeah.
It was a steal. And like, even if there's games that you don't want, wait a month, it'll be updated. But yeah, as soon as I seen that, I was like, that got me annoyed to the point where I spoke to my brother. I was like, "Can you believe this shit?" And he just went, "Dude, doesn't matter." I went, "Oh, but it's this," and he went, "It doesn't fucking matter." And it took me a while before I just went, "You know what? Yeah, it doesn't matter."
Yeah.
Like,
I think that
I
might
just
have been
realised-
like a reflection on one of my things that we talked about this at the start of 2020, what we learned from 2019. And I'm pretty sure one of the things I put down there was, you don't matter. It doesn't matter. Nothing matters. It's okay. It's fine. And I think we've somehow managed to regress into forgetting that.
Yeah, I think for me, it's just like I said, you're not running, you're not swimming. You can go out cycling, but only to a certain degree. You're not allowed to go out to the gym for long. We've been stuck indoors for so long that the things that would never usually annoy you start to annoy you. And there's the brilliant Scottish expression that just comes out whenever you're in a bad mood, and particularly if you live with someone and they start doing something, you're like, for fuck's sake, he's doing it again. And they're just sitting reading the paper, and you just shout for no reason, just fucking look at you. What are you doing? He's just sitting doing something innocuous like reading a paper. He fucking knows it annoys me, and he does it all the time.
That's probably the best and worst part of Scottish culture is that we just live together and we just say what we want to each other. Like, there's almost no holding back anything in a Scottish household. It is, if it's there, it's going to be addressed, and it's great and it's bad at the same time. But actually, just on the subject of gyms, apparently I don't think they're open on the 29th. They were supposed to open up again on the 29th, and that's still not being confirmed when everything else has been. So
You cut out a bit. What's opening on the 29th?
Gyms. Just we're talking about working out and stuff, and I don't think we have got the all clear that gyms will be open on the 29th, and normally it should have been given by now. Our conferences normally happen on a Thursday, I think, and I think we went without having an official mention of whether or not the gyms would be back open, and I gotta say, I was absolutely crushed by that news. I really was. I had a plan. I've been asked about it. Like, my parents obviously noticed that I'm not the same as I was before the lockdown started, and they said, "How you getting on with no gym?" And I said, "Bad. I really am. I'm not enjoying it. I don't like sitting around waiting for the gyms to open. I don't like this lull that I'm in, and I was working so hard to get myself out of a previous lull, then to go back into one. It
Yeah.
really hurts, and then being told, the end is in sight. Like, I genuinely have texted people with excited glee that it was only like 21 days until the gyms are open again. Like, I was really excited, and then all of a sudden it hits you that maybe not. It's quite devastating. So I'm gonna just keep going with the at-home workouts as much as I can, but nothing beats the real thing.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I can go running. I tried to do a 5K. It ended, but didn't end great. I felt, I was going to spew my lungs out.
Hmm.
I can do certain workouts. Basically, I've been burning through the rugby style workouts, try to keep myself in any kind of match shape. I'm nowhere near as fit as I used to be. I need just rugby training for that. I need drills and shit. But yeah, you never know. You never realize how much you're gonna miss something until it fucks off for a little bit. And I'm definitely missing, not just the coaching and the training of rugby, just the kind of banter and
You miss the team. You miss the camaraderie.
Yeah, without a doubt.
But let's be fair. Right now, how raring are you to go?
Oh, dude, if someone passes me a rugby ball, I'll fucking tackle anybody.
I am dreaming of deadlifting. It's not a joke. I have dreamt of deadlifting back to my previous best, and I am so fucking ready to go. If they say it's open in 5 minutes, I'm going to the gym in 5 minutes with the remainder of my Jack Daniels in hand. Like, fuck you, we're doing this right now.
See, I don't know about you, but since training has been taken off the table for me, I've been finding myself doing just odd jobs around the house. For no apparent reason, the house is spotless just because I've been tidying shit up. Because I've got nothing else to fucking do. I've not really. I'm waiting on my university to drop the guidelines for my dissertation. I'm waiting for them to give me the unit to give me more information about classes, what's going to happen next year. I'm still waiting on the rugby guys getting back to me about when rugby can resume. So I've just kind of got all this energy doing nothing. So, like, my fucking room is spotless, kitchen, living room, all this shit, spotless.
My place is a bit the same. I don't run a particularly tidy ship, but I haven't stopped working. So even though I have more downtime, the downtime is just me shutting off mentally. But although I will say, when I do clean, I fucking go for it. I'm working my way through the kitchen at the moment, and that is going to be spotless by the time I'm done. But again, like, I'm just not doing it. It's a weird thing of. It's always the thing of, like, when you're a young boy, you're always told, "Oh, boys can't clean." Boys can clean. We just don't want to. Okay, we're very good at cleaning. We just don't want to. If that makes any sense.
Oh, that makes absolute sense. The only reason I keep shit as clean as I do is because I've worked in several kitchens in the central belt of Scotland, and the level of cleanliness that is needed for there just gets installed in your brain. So you are just. I know how to fold tea towels. No one should know how to fold tea towels.
Tea towels go in a pile in the corner. That's where they go.
Exactly. I know how to fold tea towels. I know how to fold t-shirts so that they can stack better. I know shit that I shouldn't really need to know, but I do.
Yeah.
And so that's where my quite high standards of cleanliness come from.
So I think we'll push off from this and go somewhere else. Just somewhere nicer. I think it's good to hit that little vent button and just let the anger out a little bit with everything that's going on.
If I may, I can transport us to a realm that will make us forget about all this anger and forget about all this lockdown.
Ooh.
I recently finished Critical Role Campaign 1.
Interesting.
You may detect a slight sense of pride in my voice here, but that's because there's 373 hours in Campaign 1. I did that shit in about 6 months.
Shit.
I'm very proud of myself. But I put that more down to I had a lot of work to do and I had a lot of traveling back and forth to do. So just popping in podcasts and just going back and forth between places, that helps. But yeah, and I kind of wanted to give my thoughts and opinions on Critical Role as a whole, and specifically Campaign 1, because there were some mighty high highs and some very, very low lows for this season.
Go for it, man.
Just allow me to take a drink here, because I think I'm going to be talking for a little bit here.
Yeah, this feels like a monologue coming. So take a quick pre-victory sip and join us when you're ready.
So, Critical Role Campaign 1, set in the realm of Taldori, written by, I'll say written masterfully by Matt Mercer. There's a reason why Matt Mercer is heralded as one of the best DMs in the game right now, because he has a passion for the game. He genuinely knows what he's talking about. You can tell that there is a knowledge that he's built up over years of playing the game that just shines through in every way, shape, or form that it can. And you can tell that despite the fact that he's been doing this for what must be close to about, I think it started in 2016. No, 2015, because they just celebrated their 5-year anniversary earlier this year. So 5 years and well over, 2,000 hours worth of content between one shots, between campaign 1, between campaign 2, between, other guest-led campaigns.
Q&As, conventions,
Q&As, yeah.
panels, stuff like that.
Starting an entire company just based around Critical Role. Despite all this, Matt Mercer still fucking loves this game, and he still loves telling the story with the help of his friends and these other sort of voice acting luminaries like Laura Bailey, Travis Willingham, Taliesin Jaffe, Liam O'Brien, Marisha Ray, and Ashley Johnson when she's not working. Because that's one thing I noticed. Ashley Johnson's character in season 1 is probably my favorite character, because she is probably the second strongest character in the whole campaign. But she's a very bubbly, happy cleric.
Which one's she again?
Pike.
Right,
Pike
got you.
Yeah, fucking love Pike. I think she's one of the best characters in the show. Oddly enough, the second strongest character in there, despite being a gnome, and obviously the first strongest character is Grog, the Goliath barbarian. He's the big fella. He's got all the X's and he'll fuck you up. Yeah, I fucking love Pike. Genuinely, she's definitely a fan favorite, but my favorite character in the show, just because she, without a doubt, enhances every scene that she's in. I think she brings something new to it by being more of a listening type character, not as upfront and abrasive as other characters.
Yes.
But yeah, so favorite character there. But so it's set in Taldori, and the cast is just as I told you. Originally, they had another member by the name of Orion Akaba, who played a character called Tiberius Stormwind, who was there for 27 episodes, who left mysteriously. The only people that know why he left was obviously the people that he was playing the game with at the time, and 2 other people at Geek and Sundry, where Critical Role started, before Critical Role became its own channel. They worked with Geek and Sundry, which is Felicia Day's channel that originally hosted all the nerdy shit before they kind of started doing less on that channel, which is a weird thing to say. But yeah, this guy Orion Akaba, he disappeared. No one knows why. And thinking back on it, because I went back and watched the kind of highlight reel just to kind of refresh some of the things in my head. He did say some weird, creepy shit. There was at one point where Laura Bailey's character Vixalia is detailing how they are going to progress in a certain mission, and Orion Akaba just randomly bursts out, "Oh, and my character at this point, while she's talking, just has a half job."
Okay, that's an interesting take on.
Everyone has that response. Just kind of, yeah, okay. Doesn't do much, but sure.
Moving swiftly on from your weird lizard half chub, because he is a lizard.
Yeah, the weird dragonborn half chub.
Yeah,
and you can just see the fury in Travis Willingham's face. Is like, dude, my wife was talking. You said you got a half chub. I know. Travis Willingham's a big dude.
It would not piss him off.
60. Yeah, it would not piss him off, even though he probably is. I think he defines that. Was it the cinnamon roll thing? Like, he is 6 foot plus and can deadlift over 400 pounds, but he's probably a pretty cool guy.
It's a weird one, because I actually really like his character. I really enjoy it when you have this weird old cranky dragon wizard showing up and just like moaning and complaining about all the little shit that's going on in the world, and you're like, yeah, that's me in 10 years. That's
yeah.
I like his character.
He's a cool character, but as we found out this year, cool characters can have shitty people behind them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, he kind of disappeared, and the group kind of just paves over that very, very quickly. Very, very quickly. They're just going to go, oh, he's in the game for a little bit, and as soon as they get to episode 64 or something, they kind of just paste over Tiberius. Like, oh, he was in the game, he's not in the game anymore. And they just continue on as if fuck all happened. So yeah, apart from that, there's not many changes to the gameplay The game is just very standard, very standard RPG fare, very homebrewed because I think they originally played on a Pathfinder system, and then they switched over to D&D when they took the show on the internet, and it's just it's one of those shows that when you watch, you understand the fandom behind it. You understand why people are just so into this show. It's because it kind of has a bit of everything for everybody. It has the engaging storyline for people who are into the lore and the background of a show. It has the engaging characters. It has the funny characters. It has the intense combat. It has the very, very intense emotional scenes. I have to say, mainly helmed by Liam O'Brien and Laura Bailey with their characters Vixalia and Vaxildan, the half-elven twins. They seem to be kind of at the forefront of the emotional scenes,
yeah.
which is a good thing and a bad thing in my mind, because it kind of, for me, as I noticed this was at the second last episode, that all the emotional scenes are mainly at those two. Marisha Ray, her character Keyleth, she just explodes at one point early in the season because everyone's kind of backbiting. The game's not really going the way, or the campaign mission that they're doing isn't really going the same way. So her character Keyleth just fucking blows up at everybody, just saying, "You fuckers are doing this." And I thought that's a cool moment, but that's the only one she has in the entire series. Sam Riegel's character Scanlan, he has a very emotional moment when he leaves because he's sick of being the jokey character, he's sick of being the jester. Again, he has maybe 1-2 emotional moments. Then you go to Liam and Laura's characters. They get so many emotional spotlight moments that it kind of makes you think, share the stage,
Yeah, but I think you can have, if we had every character having just a series of big emotional, like heartfelt moments, you'd wonder where the game is and why it's not just like an audio drama,
Yeah.
rather than
Absolutely.
an improvised gaming show, really.
Yeah. And I should just say, these do sound like nitpicks, but that's because that's what they are. I can't really point out something and say, that is fuck awful, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
Because there's no part of the show that I would change. I'd leave it 100% exactly the way it is, because as a D&D show, I don't think it's not the only D&D show. Don't get me confused. There's a D20 Dames, there's Rivals of Waterdeep, there's Acquisitions Incorporated, the fucking OG D&D show Acquisitions Incorporated. There's so many other fucking D&D shows out there, but I think Critical Role.
I just remembered that I used to listen to Acquisitions Incorporated. I really out of nowhere just remembered it. Yeah.
Kink was great. That's where I found out about Patrick Rothfuss, and I started reading his books, like In the Name of the Wind, and there was another one, but the name escapes me. But yeah, I'm not saying that Critical Role is the only D&D show. There are other fucking superb,
and they're not the first as well. That's one thing that I want to put. There's been others who've done it before, but I think what Critical Role did was, even if I say I don't think they might not be the ones to do it best, there might be someone out there who's really crushing it. We just don't know about them yet, but they did it to such a high standard and so consistently over the years. It's a marvel. It really, like, I've looked into the show. I'm like 18 episodes in, but I'm struggling for some reason. Although I love Podbean, and that's how we host our podcast, and that's how we get it out there to all you guys. I use that app to get the Critical Role podcast, and it struggles to get those older episodes for some reason. So I'm a big fan of it, and I'm getting there, but I'm not getting there as quick as I'd like to. But I've looked into the production side of things as well, just figuring out how they do certain things and how they make things happen for like a live stream thing that becomes a podcast, and try to figure out how that all works and how it all comes together. And it is a marvel that it works as well as it does.
Oh, they have a very talented cast and crew behind them, and I think that's what helps them be almost the kind of gold standard for D&D shows.
Yes,
because they do it so, they execute it so well, and it is performed and acted so well. And I think that's what helps it, because the characters that are being portrayed are being played by veteran actors, and they know how to bring life to the character, they know what to do with the character, and through their actions in the game, other people relate to it.
Yeah.
And I think that's why people latched onto it so quickly, and I think that's why it's become, I don't like using the word rabid fan base, but I think that's why the fan base is so passionate. I'll say passionate instead of rabid, because every little piece of Critical Role merchandise, news, or media that comes out, people just jump on immediately. There was, because I'm starting my own D&D campaign thanks to Critical Role. Critical Role reinvigorated my need to DM, because I just thought, you know what, I want to do that. I want to write a story. I want to, invite people into my brain for 4 hours every couple of weeks or something just to play some D&D. And I looked on Critical Role shop or store.critrole.uk, and I seen this dice scroll thing that you could store your dice in, and you use it as a mat to roll your dice. And I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. I'll come back later and order that. 2 hours later, it completely sold out. So it has produced a fan base, and in my opinion, it deserves the fan base because it is a damn good RPG show.
Yeah.
That said, I wouldn't call it. I wouldn't say it is absolutely untarnished. There are some moments where I think they could improve. And mainly they fall to, like I said, some of the characters maybe get too much of the limelight, and that is Laura Bailey's character and Liam O'Brien's character. I think they just steal a wee bit too much of the show from me. I think I would have liked other people getting a chance to shine, and some of them do, because you get at the start of it, you get Percy played by Taliesin Jaffe. You get his arc with the Briarwoods. You get Grog fighting his uncle Kevdak for the right to lead the herd.
Grog actually gets a lot of good, like, little moments. It's not always about him, but he is a great driving force because he is a barbarian. He is a simple fist fighter at some points. Like, he's up for the challenge, and he's always one putting the first foot forward in a way. And he gets little moments like that, but I don't know how it progresses later on.
Yeah, I think the further you go into, because there's always those little side quests, I call them. The mainstay of all the campaigns is just, and the campaign, on the first part of the campaign, they're trying to take down the Chroma Conclave, which is a group of dragons. Before that, the Briarwoods. They were kind of the main big bad of one thing, and that was a very Percy heavy part of the campaign. But even at that, there was still a lot of Vexalia in that. And then you go to the Chroma Conclave, and they're visiting all these different places to try and rally support. And Vexalia got her own little part, but even at that, there were still all these other character-specific moments that she kind of forced her way into. I'm not saying, like, this sounds kind of harsh because I'm saying share the stage, but I just think it would have been a bit better if you let that character deal with it by themselves. Like,
right,
you weren't really needed in that. It sounds like a nitpick. Again, I'm just trying to find things that I could say. I didn't really like that too much. But yeah, that is all I'll say on that. There is not really enough focus given to some of the other characters, because towards the end of campaign 1, I'm 3 episodes into campaign 2. At the end of campaign 1, you barely hear anything from Pike. You barely hear anything from Scanlan. You barely hear anything from Grog or Keyleth. It's all just, Vex, Vax, and Percy. It's those main 3 because they're dealing with quite a lot of the shit that's out there. And
I was going to say, is that relative to their importance to the final storylines? Like, are they the main people who have to deal with the issue, or do they just happen to be the ones who mouth off or who speak up during situations?
One of them is Vaxel Dan Liam O'Brien's character. He has a very pivotal role in the whole show that I won't spoil for anyone out there. I know you're not really too bothered about spoilers, but if you're going to listen to campaign 1 of Critical Role, I'll leave Vax's main role in the show spoiler free. But Percy and Vex, they do play somewhat of a role in it, but they're not the main focus. I think the party as a whole should have been the main focus, but these two kind of steal the limelight more often.
Okay, because I was wondering maybe like if it's relevant, if it's important, like if it's appropriate for them to have the majority of the time, then it is what it is. But if it just so happens that they're kind of forcing themselves into each scene,
it kind of seems like that way to me. It just seems like there's a lot of people. There's one point where Ashley Johnson's character Pike was having an emotional scene with her grandfather. Then the rest of the cast is kind of butted in. I was like, wouldn't it have been better if she just had that conversation by herself? But then that's just that. This is just me. This is how I would have done it. And again, they did it fucking perfectly. They did it way better than I could. I'm not saying that my way is the way it should go. I'm just saying I would have handled it differently. But absolutely, the way that you did it was good. I just would have changed some things. But yeah, apart from that, I'm struggling to think of nitpicks that I have for the show. Every single adventure that they had was just fucking spot on. Some of the shit that they had to do was genuinely intense and gripping and made you want to just keep listening. And to the point where I listened, I think my record was 2 episodes in a day.
Damn.
But yeah, because I just thought I need to fucking listen. I need to listen to the second part of this because I think it was the fight with Grog's uncle. The first part, because they start the fight with Kevdak, and Kevdak has a very, very powerful set of gauntlets. And I was like, I listened to the first part, the fight happens. I was like, dude, I need to find out what happens. I need to fucking do this. So I put on the second episode. I think I was in uni that day, so I had my wireless headphones in. I had one headphone in listening to my lecture. I was like, I just need to know what happens. And that's I think the beauty of the show is the storytelling just hooks you in immediately.
Yeah, it's a very gripping story in a way. Like there's everything about it, like from the DM, everything to the actors involved, the characters, the storyline itself. Like everything is designed to keep you tied into the world, and I think that's why it develops such a strong connection with its fans. That they want to stay in that world for as long as possible, and any connection back to it, be it merch, be it stories, be it news. Draws them in immediately because it's a chance to go back there to that world.
Yep. Without a doubt. So like there's no point in the show that's boring. The guest characters they bring in, like Mary Elizabeth McGlynn, they bring in Will Friedle from Batman Beyond. They bring in Joe Manganiello for a couple episodes.
All right.
Who's him and Travis Willingham start this group called Jocks Mocking Her.
Right.
Dude, I fucking want one of those t-shirts, but again, I got into the campaign 1 about 3 years after it ended, so I couldn't find a Jocks Mocking Her t-shirt anywhere. If anyone who's listening has a Jocks Mocking Her t-shirt in a large, and you want to get rid of it, send it to me. I will pay for it gladly. I'm trying to think who else is in the show. They have Felicia Day. They have Will Wheaton. There's just like quite heavy hitting guests that they get in. So there's never really a dull moment. Even when you think there might be a dull moment, there's always good character interactions. There's always there's funny NPCs that Matt Mercer voices, or they'll go and do quests for the Slayer's take, and they'll go and fight fucking monsters, and that'll be a hell of a thing to watch. And I think if I had to say one thing about the storytelling, it's not really about the story itself. It's more about how Matt. In fact, no, this is not really got anything to do with the storytelling. I have no fucking idea where I'm going with that. The next point I want to make, again, it's a little nitpick, and I understand why Matt DMs like this, but it's how Matt DMs the game. He is very, very lenient and very, very quick to acquiesce to some of the group's requests, and quick to just go, yeah, sure, you can do that. Yeah, it's cool. Whereas I think if they played offline, I think Matt might be a bit more cutthroat. Just go, nah, you're not doing that. You never said you were going to do that. You can't just retcon it in. But I think
there are DMs who would call you out on little quirks and stuff like, well, you never said you had your sword out when you made that attack, so you attack with your fists. It's like, well, just assume I have my sword out. Goblins appeared. I have my sword out. Fuck off.
Yeah, there was one where I say that he was a bit too lenient, and where someone said, I cast this spell at this spell level. He goes, oh, cool. Roast damage. Fuck, I totally said to you that I was going to roll that at 4th level, not 3rd level. And he says, well, you never said that. Oh, but I totally did, though. And he went, yeah, okay, I'll let you away with it this time. I just thought, I get why you're doing that, because you need to strike that balance between being a stickler for the rules and being entertaining. So maybe you'd be a bit more lenient.
Yeah, it is a tricky balance.
You need to make it entertaining.
I could see that being an issue, but I mean, it depends how you fall on it, because for some people, like, yeah, I guess it's okay, it's fine. Or people who might know that it is an entertainment product, it's not supposed to be a hardcore campaign, that they might accept that. But there might be some others who are like, no, I came here for a D&D. Like, you did not follow the rules of D&D. You fucked up, you know?
I think it's just for me that when I've ever played D&D, I've never really had leniency. It's always just been, that's what you rolled, and but can I do this? And like, well, you didn't say it at the start, so you're not getting to do it now. That's just how I've always played D&D. And then when I started listening to Critical Role, and Matt Mercer's just going, oh, that dice, it's kind of skewed, it's kind of stuck on the edge, you can re-roll that if you want. As soon as I heard that, I just came in, holy shit, you sure? Like,
bro,
the dice clearly says 4, and you're saying because it's kind of skewed on the edge of the box, you're going to let me roll it? Okay, this is weird. Or with the spell, and it's like, oh, I totally meant to cast that at 4th level. I told you I was going to cast it at 4th level. Yeah, sure, whatever. Dude, what are you doing? But then you realize that you need to strike that balance. You need to just maybe bend the rules a bit for the sake of putting out something that's entertaining instead of being an absolute stickler to the rules. And of course, it kind of goes back to the rule of cool. Like, you kind of let your characters bend the rules a little bit if it means your player characters get more out of the game, and that's fine. But personally, for me, it was just weird seeing a D&D that was as lenient as Matt Mercer was.
Yeah.
And that kind of, if I had to, like, I don't think I could put a number on how much I couldn't give a rating, because I think whatever rating I give it isn't good enough. Because I can't say 10 out of 10 because I think it deserves more. I think it's just a fantastic show, and if you want to get into D&D, I think listening to Critical Role will help you essentially be a better character, be a better player character, or be a better DM, because definitely listening to it, there's some things that I've picked up on, definitely maybe being a bit more descriptive or being a bit more laid back with certain things, and maybe not forcing things too much, maybe being a bit more adaptive, or if you're being a player character, how to be a better character and how to immerse yourself in the game a bit more. So not only would I say is it good and entertaining, it also kind of teaches you a bit more about the game, and it also kind of teaches you that it's okay to play against character type sometimes, particularly more in season 2. From what I'm reading in season 2, it's okay to play against character type, because in season 1, campaign 1, things are very stereotypical. All elves speak like they are highborn English. Everything is fancy, and all the dwarves, they all speak like they're chain smokers from Glasgow. And but everything gets quite stereotypical there. But in campaign 2, everything's a bit more. You get American dwarves, you get Scottish elves, you get German humans. It's all just, it kind of teaches you, if you want to make a cool character and it's viable in the game, do it. So would wholeheartedly recommend I would wholeheartedly recommend D&D to anybody, but specifically if you're looking for a podcast, Critical Role, you cannot go wrong with a bit of Critical Role.
Well, I'm impressed you managed to get to the end of campaign 1, because I am 18 episodes in at most, and I've just met the Slayer's Take, and I am already like, damn, this is tough going. And the idea that there's maybe, I think there's like 60 odd episodes to get to the end of, or maybe more than that, to get to the end of season 1. I don't actually know the numbers.
What episode are you on? 18.
18.
Dude, you're about 90 odd episodes away from the end.
There it is. Immediately my brain just goes, shit. Like, I am
115 episodes in season 1.
Shit. Okay, I mean, like, on the one hand, that's great to know that I have like an almost unlimited, never-ending supply of entertainment, but that is something that, like, as much as I'd recommend it, I always give that little thing of, by the way, this will take the rest of your life.
Yeah.
This is like reading Game of Thrones.
Yeah, it's like writing Game of Thrones. But I will say that it's not for everybody, because there are some moments that are just pure cringe. Like there was a part that I was telling you about. I texted you about it because I said something. I had one of those kind of blurt out loud moments. I was out taking my dog for a walk around the street, and it was the part at the end of series 1 where a huge character loss has just happened, and Laura Bailey's character Vixalia is dealing with the aftermath of this, and and Laura Bailey as Vix just blurts out on the screen, "I feel like I'm losing a part of my soul," and I just went, right, hen, calm down. Out loud, middle of the street. There are some cringy moments in there, but if you get past the cringe and realise that it's just a bit fun, you'll get into it a bit more. And I can say without a doubt that is a hard barrier to overcome, because I play Pathfinder, I play a bit of D&D every now and again. I'm not the kind of guy that gets heavily into the role playing. I don't do accents. I don't do, much to differentiate a character's voice from my voice. All my characters sound like me. Even the occasion where I played a female character, they just fucking sound like me. I played a half-elf ranger, and my GM at the time said, so what does your character sound like? I went, this.
There,
And you
there's
went, so you're not changing your accent at all? I went, no, man, you know I don't do accents.
there's I get there's always like one little thing that stands out to you. For me, I found an issue with there's a one point I say Grog he's interesting in fist fighting, so he gets into like a fight club situation, and the town that they're in honors strength and a war god, and is all about standing your own 2 feet and swinging your punches from there. And everyone in the party, everyone who isn't Grog, is some kind of magic user. So they have a little bit of distrust going there. But they keep trying to force feed or force away or like try to trick the way around giving him special abilities that might help him win the fight. And there's a whole thing in D&D kind of culture about not metagaming. Like, you shouldn't use information outside of the narrative to influence your decision in the narrative. But I found it really, really frustrating that no one was willing to, maybe not metagame, but just infer from the context that you're in a town that values strength and honor, especially when it comes to martial status, and yet you're trying to underhandedly win fights in some weird arcade or weird arcane magic ritual. You guys should really know what you're, just read the room in a weird way. Read the dwarven city that you're standing in.
Yeah, I remember. I remember that point. That did kind of annoy me because at the same time, it's a test of strength. Let him just do the fighting arm. But then, what I think Scanlan starts singing and giving him inspiration. I thought that's pretty funny. I thought that was pretty cool. I dug that. And Laura Bailey's character flashing the guy that Grog was fighting. I thought that's pretty fucking funny because you imagine a guy just sitting there looking at some half elf or half naked half elf chick, then just Grog socking him in the jaw. That was a pretty funny visual.
It's just one of the things of like sometimes you get it right and sometimes you get it wrong, and you just gotta kind of try and gloss over the parts where they get it wrong, even if it's just like a personal taste type of thing, and just roll with it because it's I'd say the story is definitely worth it. Roll with it. Very nice. Well done. Aren't you fucking proud of yourself?
Do you want to know the honest answer to that? No. I feel bad. I feel really bad.
Okay, you go now to the special level of hell for people who enjoy puns. It's the worst part of that is you're stuck with people who enjoy puns.
Oh yeah.
There is no other torture. It's just you in a room full of people who enjoy puns. You're all getting on each other's nerves.
I have left group chats and I have left Twitch streams halfway through where I've been really enjoying them, but the minute the streamer makes a pun, I'm out.
It's weird that you have such a visceral reaction to it, and it's so standard across the board though. Everyone, like, you in or you're out. You're either like finger guns or you're like, I will walk out this fucking room right now and never speak to you again.
I will break this room. I will destroy this room with you in it. I hate puns, man. I think that I will accidentally make a pun, but I'll go from haha to just, oh god, what am I doing with my life?
Yeah, that's the only time someone who hates puns, like if they can't help themselves, I've got to make the joke, but I then immediately have to be self-deprecating about the fact that I made the joke afterwards.
Yeah.
It's the only acceptable way for people who hate puns to make puns. But speaking of enjoying things, I recently watched the Bloodywood documentary, and Bloodywood is a band we've talked about quite a bit on this the podcast, because it's great to hear a new take on heavy metal, and Bloodywood comes at us from India. And just the fact they describe themselves as Punjabi street metal is just the exact way I would describe them to someone else. And they have been working their way through releasing some new songs. They released Yad, which was a fantastic song about loss. They are a band who have a very constructive way of looking at mental health, and they want to start discussions, and they're very good at doing that with great lyrics. But they made a documentary about them just rising up through the ranks and just becoming like starting off in like a weird little apartment and then just working away at it, grinding away, making like covers and music videos and trying to do their own work as well at the same time, and then just becoming this weird kind of like semi-viral sensation on the internet. Like they're now known widely in metal circuits, but also like them talking about how lucky they have to be just viral in India. Like there's 1 billion people in India, there are millions of social media accounts, they're all competing for attention, and then what are the odds that you as a heavy metal band make it in a country that is not well known for heavy metal, and that people don't associate or look out for heavy metal acts coming from India. and they talk a lot about like they got lucky sometimes. They got found by some article in America, or they got a retweet from somebody in Bollywood of all places, because somebody, it's just some Bollywood star that I've never heard of, but apparently has a couple million followers on Instagram. It just says, "I found these guys. Check them out. They're pretty cool." And all of a sudden, their career just skyrockets, and they have a great documentary about it, and it's just 90 minutes, most of which covers their European leg of their of a world tour. I think they joked about it being a world tour, but just in Europe. They went to Germany for a little bit, then France, over at the UK, back into like the Netherlands, and then back to Germany for Wacken Open Air Festival, which is the fucking mecca of metal.
Oh yeah.
And they are probably the first. I'm gonna just take a wild guess and say there's no other Indian band has performed at Wacken Open Air.
Yeah, I do. I think they're in rarefied air. I can't see many other, unless some,
There's been somewhere has been from India, and has like played, and it's like, oh, technically it's me. Like, oh, great, thanks to the technicality. Now the honor doesn't go to Bollywood, because it's weird to see them have to rise so quickly to the occasion. That's like you see the live performances at Wacken, which actually makes up the last 15 minutes of the documentary, is just the live footage and just occasional comments from them about how they thought the show was going as it's happening. And they reveal the fact that they've never actually played live before, and they have like 10 weeks to make it to one of the biggest metal festivals in the world. So they start like rehearsing like crazy. They just like, we didn't know what to do, we just booked a room and just started playing fake gigs, then worked our way into like booking a small gig in our hometown, and then flew to the opposite end of India to play a show there, just because we'd be out of our comfort zone, maybe hoping we'd have to play like a slightly more hostile audience to kind of get a feel for how that would feel. Then we come back to play a big concert back home, and then they go out to Europe, and it's like that's insane that you go that fast. But I think someone at like Wacken's booking office just saw the videos that they'd made and just said, "Hey, you guys want to come play the show? Because we'll give you a tent." I guess we go for it. And like one of them wasn't sure, and immediately the other two, like the metalheads in the group, heard about it and like, "We are going to play that show. I don't care if it kills us. We are playing that fucking show. We'll figure it out on the way."
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll iron out the kinks, but at the same time, we're doing the show.
Yeah. But the documentary is them ironing out the kinks, and it's like really it's very heartwarming, and it's kind of soppy and emotional in certain places, because you realize that this the way you feel about metal is the way that a lot of people feel about metal, which is great. It's a good thing to realize. Like, it's something that you may not realize until you're in your first concert, to realize that you're not alone in your love of this weird angry music, that you can find hundreds, if not thousands, of people who will maybe not agree with everything that you like, but will feel the same way generally. And seeing the camaraderie and community, and just like them having just that gut reaction to the fact that people are getting the lyrics from their songs tattooed on themselves in like 20 different languages. They're like, that's amazing. That we never we were strumming around playing with guitars one day in our like spare room of our apartment, and we never saw this coming. And it's like, oh wow, these guys are they're real people. They're really humble. It's quite nice. I say I'll not spoil it too much. I'd recommend it to everyone. I say we're big fans of Bollywood. I have the merch coming on the way. It's any day now. But they sold it.
Went to buy some Bloodywood merch, but the minute I went to buy it, all of it was fucking sold out.
Yeah,
it's all sold out now, which is it must be a great feeling for people, bands to go out and say, we don't know if this is going to land, and just all of it sells out instantly. I kind of wish I would have bought it sooner, because it's getting to that time of the year where I kind of cycle out the old rugby gear and bring in new stuff. So I bought myself a couple training shirts, and I bought myself a new pair of boots. And I was looking to buy some Critical Role gear, but again, that shit is almost all sold out again.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought, I wish I bought that Bloodywood t-shirt now. But I'll just need to wait for the second batch.
Yeah, because there's no way there's not, because sold out in 3 days, and I think they've already promised there's more coming. Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. We just
Nice.
need to make it happen. And I mean, to drop merch for an Indian heavy metal band during coronavirus lockdown, where most of your fans might be furloughed, might be struggling financially, and then to see it all sell out must be a real relief for those guys. It shows that there's support, and they dropped this days before the documentary came out. So like this isn't like everyone saw the documentary and rushed to get the merch. It was merch first, then release a documentary. Half of which is a thank you to the fans for supporting them. Like, well timed, lads. if the sales had been absolutely dog shit, that might have received a quick edit. But you know, actually that reminds me, we talked about editing earlier, and I talked about like films I've been watching. I watched a French film called Breathless, which is a 1960s French New Wave film that I found interesting. It's very weird to see so much of what we consider normal filmmaking now being revolutionary back in the day. But one thing that I've now done a wormhole of is researching opinions on it and finding think pieces and articles and places to go next, having watched a landmark of cinema. And I found
Fucking thing.
what was that?
Sorry, I'm being attacked by moths.
Yeah, they're everywhere now.
The fucking goddamn animals. Get away from me.
But one thing I found during my investigations into Breathless was that there is before this, one of the biggest French films was a silent movie that was a 5.5 hour dramatization of Napoleon's life, and I need to get that fucking film. I don't know why. I've only watched one other silent film, and that was Nosferatu. I don't have a love for silent film, but the idea that there was a 5.5 hour remaster as well. Like, this is the original film was kept and locked in a vault because it's seen as one of the like seminal arts of filmmaking. Like, it's one of the biggest things to ever happen. I think you can find footage of what's his fucking name, the guy who directed The Shining, Stanley Kubrick. I think, yeah, Stanley Kubrick.
Stanley Kubrick.
You can find him saying this is one of the best films ever made, and I'm like, you fucking what, mate?
Yeah, that's enough for me to watch it.
So I've found a Blu-ray of it. It is remastered by the British Film Institute, which I'm just talking about editing. Can you imagine being told you now have to go through frame by frame and remaster and get it ready for 4K a film from the 1920s about Napoleon, shot all in black and white. I think there was a couple of color filters used as well, but that's it. Like, that's the most interesting thing visually that's going to happen. But it is insane, like, when you see what they did in the 1920s. I mean, at that point, there was part of the discussion of, like, very early film is that people just filmed things happening. That people would film a train pulling into a station because people were fascinated by that. They'd never seen that captured on film. And that's where the famous, like, kind of, it's like a weird, like, bit of trivia that's handed around is that when people first saw the movie of a train pulling into a station, they panicked because they thought the train was coming at them. They didn't understand that the thing was a film. You know, that's like just 10, 15 years maybe before this 5.5 hour Napoleon epic. It's fucking mental, and I'm looking for that. But also, if anyone has any recommendations for like really old films, because part of what drew me to Breathless was that this is seen as a kind of punk rock alternative to the establishment of cinema at the time, and I want to see films from the 1950s and before that are the establishment this film rails against. And I want to, if anyone has any recommendations, it's a weird one. I doubt that this is anyone else's cup of tea, but if anyone would have any recommendations for really old 1950s and that era film, I'm all ears. Find me at Aaron Lord Mad on Twitter.
What was the name of the Napoleon?
It is just
film?
Napoleon. It's Napoleon 1927. I've got it on Amazon as like my to buy list.
I genuinely think I might have that.
Really?
My dad is massively in the Napoleonic War, and to the point where he watches anything to do with it. He's a huge fan of Sharp, because that's set in the Napoleonic War. He watches and just inhales anything to do with the Napoleonic War. I'm pretty sure I have that in this house on DVD.
That's
In
weird.
fact, I'm almost positive that I bought him that along with Gettysburg
Yeah.
and a film called Hurricane. or Hurricane Man. It was a boxing film anyway. Yeah.
I will say that as initially when you look at the Napoleonic warfare and stuff, like the stuff that was going on at the time, it doesn't seem that interesting. See, now looking at it, I'm like, okay, I get the fascination. Like, I get the obsession with what went on. Like, it's a very strange type of warfare that doesn't make sense now because of, like, we're used to ancient warfare. That makes sense. People just run at each other with sticks and beat the shit out of each other. That makes sense. And then we have now where it's always ready for a counterinsurgency or a counterattack, patrolling large areas. Like the war on terror looks completely different to the war against Hitler, and then looks completely different to the war of World War One compared to Napoleonic warfare. Like, it's just warfare changed so much so fast. The Napoleonic stuff, like, this is nonsense. Why is everyone walking around jodhpurs and weird funny hats? You know, you're at war. Take it seriously. You're just dicking around in weird funny coats. But it
Why
is
is the pinnacle of weapons technology a pepper box?
but it is very fascinating, and I one weird thing I found very funny about Napoleon is that his last battle is basically the Avengers Endgame. Napoleon is an Avengers level threat in ancient Europe. It's fucking amazing.
Apparently, he was so well loved in certain places because there were the underclassmen in certain cities who thought, because his whole thing was, I will topple the establishment and things like that.
Yeah, I will throw down the monarchies and replace it with a government of the people.
Yeah, certain less privileged people in cities like London and things like that were so fervent about meeting him, so vehement about meeting him, that they would literally set out 28-mile or 28-man wide garrisons around him so that people couldn't get to him. He was that fucking popular.
He was apparently very good at visuals about politics and stuff like that. He always presented himself in a certain way. I mean, in public, he is a soldier. He is dressed in a uniform that's very well tailored. It's very professional. He is the general king of France. Like, he is the emperor in more than just, like, he's earned the title of emperor. But then when you look at artwork that he's had done for him, it's very Christ-like in a certain way. I've seen like discussions of paintings and stuff that he had done for him, but if you look at his coronation as Emperor of France, like, you can go into it and you can pick apart a bunch of little details that it really shows you he has spent a lot of time and effort into making himself appear as close to God as possible, and then that brings with it reverence that people had for him back in the day. It's interesting. He's a very weird character that, like, he doesn't make sense until you really look into as much of him as you can. But I might want to study Napoleon a little bit more because I find him fascinating.
Yeah, he was a very, very strange person because he was quite a charismatic dude. People just were gravitated to him. He was just a very fascinating figure, and I always remember being. I'm interested in it now, but I always remember being bored to tears watching, Sharp, because like, oh great, Sean Bean's going to stab this guy. Sean Bean's going to stab that guy. Holy shit, Sean Bean actually survives till the end of something. But yeah, I think that just shows how much I've kind of matured, because now I can actually sit and watch that shit. But when I was a kid, I was like, oh god, this shit again.
The one thing I never got was I used to go to a wargaming club out in, I think it was Stirling, and there was always people playing Napoleonic warfare games, like the tabletop games. I never got it. I'm like, dude, there's 40k right here. We have bolt guns, we have orcs, we have fucking laser beams. It's cool as hell. Get over here. Stop playing with little soldiers and weird hats. But then, like, now looking at it,
I had the same view of Warhammer Fantasy. 40k for me was always just, dude, we have bloodletters, we have demons, we have axes, magic, bolt pistols, bolters, plasma guns, tanks, bikes and shit. Why are you over there messing with trebuchets and horses?
Ooh, la-di-da, bows and arrows. Fuck off.
Yeah. Dude, can you see what Karn the Betrayer does? He has 12 attacks.
He shoved a chainsaw through someone, then turned it on.
He punched someone in the face and somehow managed to rip out his anus.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, your perspective on so much shifts so fast as well. Like, that was only 5-6 years ago. Totally different game.
Yeah.
Speaking of different games, Microsoft released their Games Expo that I guess is in place of their E3 performance this year.
Yes.
So this entire event is supposed to be like a showcase of everything they wanted to give you for a teaser for the Xbox Series X. So, I mean, you sent me the text saying, "Did you see it?" And I said, "No, I was at work. I'll watch it," and then resulted in sending you various live tweets and first impressions and stuff as it happened. Best point I probably made was, if I drank every time they said 60 frames per second, I'd be fucked right now.
Yeah. Right. One thing that is pissing me off severely about the current state of video games and the current state of video game consoles and even PC gaming is that everyone is so chubbed up about refresh rate, for bit rates, for fucking frames per second. I get that people want to get their games looking as good as possible, but make the games work first before you start jerking yourself off about fucking frame rates and 60 frames per second and 8K and 4K. Holy shit. If I have to watch one more goddamn Twitch stream where some guy goes, "Oh, hold on, I'm just going to refresh the stream because I'm at 58 frames per second and not 60," or complaining about the fucking bitrate, I'm going to fucking lose my mind. I'm genuinely sick of it.
It's I think that's part of the problem, is that it is a very visual art, and then all of a sudden someone makes statements about how good they can make the visuals look, and then the race to the top becomes exclusively about visuals rather than storytelling, rather than mechanical function of the game. No one, that seems to have fallen by the wayside, and this was an issue 10 years ago, and yet we still haven't gotten over it.
Yeah.
Not
So
helped,
I
of
just
course.
got to go on a little personal rant there because my favorite YouTuber of all time, I've probably mentioned this before, but here's a refresher if you can't remember. But my favorite YouTuber is a guy called Maximilian Dude, who does a shit ton of fighting game videos. He's basically what got me into fighting games more. He got me further into fighting games, showed me how to play the games through his videos and shit like that. Fucking love the channel, love the guy. Seems great guy. All the best to him and his wife when their child arrives in August. Fucking love the guy. And I love his other channel, Yo Video Games. But if I have to listen to him fucking bitch and moan, because I get he's having a lot of problems with his internet right now, but even before that, when he was playing video games, and it was, just say he was playing Street Fighter 5, and it would drop to 54 frames a second, he would lose his shit. Or if he's watching a video doing a reaction and the bitrate goes a bit wonky because there's a lot of shit on the screen, he'll go, "Oh my god, this is literally unwatchable. The bitrate is so bad." And I'm like, "Motherfucker, watch the video. I will bitch slap you through this monitor."
Actually, before we get
Sorry,
too far
man.
into the weeds,
That's
I should point out that if you haven't seen the Microsoft conference, you can just go to YouTube and look for Microsoft's YouTube channel. I think it's at the Xbox official YouTube channel. We retweeted it on Twitter at Gibberfish. You can find the link there. You can find not only in the English for like the 50-minute version, you can find each individual trailer. I think they all should be up there. I think one or two of them might be on their own YouTube channels. And then you can also find the conference given in different languages or with different language subtitles. So there's, if you haven't seen it yet, now probably just pause and just go watch to find out, have your own opinion of it, come back and join us with the rest of the discussion. So overall, what's your first impression of this generation that's coming forward for the Xbox?
Dude, I think we are in for a fucking absolute stormer of a console generation, because there's so many games coming out that I think, yeah, that's going to be worth picking up on Xbox for. Even games that they didn't show. Gears of War 6, I think, is going to be good, because Gears of War 5 is just a great platform to build on. As much as I'm probably not going to get into it, Halo Infinite does look pretty good.
Yeah, and this is the opening salvo as well. This is the first games of the generation. There's several years of this hopefully to come.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm with you in the same kind of optimism. I'm much happier with the focus on gaming this year as opposed to the Xbox the Xbox One, which was launched as a home entertainment console more than a gaming console, which is good. It kind of puts Microsoft back in the driving seat, saying, remembering that we are a gaming company, we produce a gaming console for gamers. Here are all the gaming studios we own now and are now working with to produce content. So
yeah.
I like where they're going with this. I think that the big push for Xbox Game Pass that they made at E3 last year has kind of finally paid off, and I think I want to talk about that more once we've discussed all the games.
Yeah.
That I think that really solidifies, this conference really solidifies that is their model going forward. I think, I don't want to say 60 quid games are dead, because I don't think they're dead yet. I think there might be something worthwhile, worth paying for in that kind of model.
There are always going to be idiots like myself who like having the physical editions
Yeah.
in their games library. But I think Game Pass, if you have an Xbox or a PC and you're sleeping on Game Pass, you're missing out on such great money for value. I don't think I can be contradicted in any way by saying that Xbox Game Pass is the best deal in video games right now.
Well, actually,
PlayStation Plus can't even touch it. PlayStation Plus gives you Goat Simulator and a good game.
bro, Goat Simulator's good. Shut the fuck up.
Can I mute you?
Yeah, probably. It's probably worth it.
I mean, to me,
I'd mute
PlayStation Plus doesn't really give you good games, right? Statistically, they'll occasionally give you a game, but chances are you've already got that game that they're offering for PlayStation Plus. But Game Pass is just dropping hit after hit every month. I mean, you want to play Kingdom Hearts, they have that. You want to play Monster Hunter, they have that. You want to play Bloodstained, you want to play Borderlands, you want to play fucking Killer Instinct, you want to play old school Street Fighter. Go ahead, it's all on Game Pass, and it's £15 a month.
It's an absurd bargain.
It's a great deal.
If the thing for me that really sold me on Game Pass was the exposure to different types of games, and I was stuck in a rut of playing the same type of games again and again, and I got back into racing games through Game Pass. I got back into like strategy games and like third person shooters as opposed to like the first person shooters. I just decided to pick up new stuff that if I was having to pay £60 a game for it, I never really would have touched it. But I don't know. I mean, with not having to really pay for it, I mean, yeah, I'm paying a subscription fee, but having the access to those games, I went and played more and enjoyed more. And yeah, I found some games that sucked, but at the same time, I found some stuff that I really enjoyed and still go back to this day.
And that's what I think. That's where I think the value of Game Pass comes through. Just finding those little gems that you never usually would play, but because you have it there, you're more inclined to play it.
So starting from the top, I think I've got most of these in order. But I liked that it starts with State of Decay 3. I'm a big fan of the State of Decay franchise. I've played 1 and 2. I loved 2. And the intro to 3 really caught me off guard. I did not know what I was looking at because a lot of the discussion around each console generation is graphics improving. And I'm assuming that's a pre-rendered cinematic because I don't think they can make that game look that good. And it doesn't suit the style of the game.
Yeah, it looked like a good trailer. But originally, as soon as it loaded in, I'm like, this is The Last of Us. This looks just like The Last of Us. Yeah. But I have not played any of the State of Decay games. I genuinely thought that State of Decay 1 happened and then they just let that ride.
State of Decay 2 was a pretty good platform, or was actually a pretty good game for Game Pass to get because it was it came out the basic version and then they could kind of drip feed you a couple of the DLC contents. But I quite liked it. And one thing, I don't know if it was just me looking into it a bit too much, but I thought it was a bit of a middle finger to Sony, just because for the last year, I think the last console generation, I'd say Sony won it, and Microsoft just was on the receiving end of a 5-year beating. But then them actually, like in the trailer, this is the first thing they show you of the entire console expo, was a reversal of Predator and Prey with a zombie deer eating a wolf. And I'm like, ooh, if that was a middle finger, that's a pretty damn good middle finger.
Yeah.
And as a fan of State of Decay, the idea of adding zombie animals gets me kind of interested because it's going to be barbaric trying to survive a zombie horde and then all of a sudden a deer jumps over the wall like fucking Christ.
You imagine that you're out there in the State of Decay world, and all of a sudden there's fucking a pack of zombie squirrels that just set up on you. You have to try and shoot fast-moving zombie squirrels.
Oh, I'd die so fast. But to be fair, as long as it's not in Australia, we'll be fine because there's no zombie kangaroos leaping over the walls.
Oh yeah, fuck that. You imagine getting kicked by a zombie kangaroo? Fuck that, dog. Fuck that.
So after that, it was I joked that like before I started the video, I said to simulate the E3 experience, I'm gonna yell, "Is that the Master Chief?" And that was the first thing I saw after State of Decay was legitimately the start of the Halo trailer.
Yeah, it looks. I like the way that they've basically just stripped back the HUD the HUD for the game looks a lot cleaner than it has in previous games.
Yes.
The wrist grappling hook, I thought if they're doing a new Halo game, they're going to give them some kind of verticality. They're going to give them a jetpack. They're going to give them jump boots or something. Because the previous Halo games have been about, well, Halo 1, 2, and 3 were all about, the different kind of weapons. Halo 1 was just about, you know, good shooting, tight combat, all that shit. Halo 2 was about dual wielding and furthering the tight combat and all that shit. Halo 3 was just all about cool melee weapons and furthering that. Halo 4 had something.
Halo 4 was there?
Halo 4 integrated more of the armor skills. Same
Yeah.
with 5. 5 was shit because people went into that game wanting to play as Master Chief and ended up playing as Spartan Locke. And everyone was just going, who the fuck is this guy when he's at home?
And I actually thought he was an interesting character. He was an interesting foil to Master Chief. It was quite fun to have them say, okay, we've had this guy who just kind of does what he wants within the military for the last decade or so. Now let's give him someone to say, no, there are consequences for your actions.
Yeah, he was the kind of the loyal soldier that had to rein in the old
veteran
soldier
who doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, I suppose to an extent he was an okay character, but in general,
He was not well
if you play
received.
yeah, not well received. Because if you play Halo, you want to play as Master Chief, unless it's Halo Reach or Halo ODST or something. If Master Chief is on the front cover, you want to play as Master Chief. Or if it says Master Chief is in the game, you want to play as him. To have that kind of bait and switch where you play as Locke, it's just, okay, I don't like this.
They did give you a couple chapters of Chief, but it was mostly Locke.
Yeah, there's a lot of Spartan Locke.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'll be very interested to see if they can pull off the feel of that grapple hook mechanic, because I feel like the bar for that has been set really high with the Spider-Man franchise. If it's being used for movement, I really don't think they can match what was done with Spider-Man. If it's being used, though, for as part of combat, I'll be interested to see how that works. But I can see it being glitchy.
I can see them going for more of a Scorpion from Mortal Kombat as opposed to a Spider-Man approach, because Spartans are heavy motherfuckers. I think they're like 500 kilograms.
Yeah.
They're big dudes and dudettes.
Yeah, dudettes. There are dudettes.
Yeah, they're big people. So having them just swing around almost like Spider-Man with the grappling hook would be a bit weird. Funny as fuck to watch, but it'd be a bit weird.
Yeah, I mean, if you thought
You'd
those
feel
little...
like you're watching Red versus Blue at that point.
If you think those little guys were terrified before, wait until Master Chief drops from the sky on them.
Yeah. Although I do like one of my favorite parts of the... Hold on. One of my favorite parts of the trailer was the fact that the brutes can now throw things at you, and that includes grunts.
Yes, I did see that one, yeah.
So you could be walking along, just not noticing, a brute catches you off guard, and all of a sudden a grunt just comes slamming into your face. That'd be great.
Yeah, I'll wait and see it. It's the Halo franchise. I'm not that big a fan of it overall. I think I'll just wait and see how it actually plays. I'll get my hands on it through like a friend, and if I like what I see, I'll go out and buy it.
More than likely, you'll see it on Game Pass.
Actually, yeah, that was a good point. All these games are going to be on Game Pass.
Yeah, and that's great. I lost interest in the Halo franchise when they lost interest in local co-op. Halo 4, there isn't a local co-op. Halo 5, there isn't local co-op. So I thought, yeah, fuck it. If I can't play this game couch co-op with my brother like we used to do in Halo 3 and Halo Reach,
And ODST.
I don't give a fuck. And ODST, which ODST is my favourite game. I don't get why people hate on it so much. I like it. But yeah, if I can't play it couch co-op, that ruins the fun of the game for me.
Yeah. The next one up I saw was Outer Worlds, the DLC for that. I don't really care for the Outer Worlds. I tried getting into it. I didn't enjoy myself in the first few hours and said, this is like an 80-hour RPG. I am not getting stuck into this.
I kind of like it just because I don't like Fallout. Even though it's a Fallout style game, I don't like the Fallout universe because I'm not a fan of sci-fi that's set in the real world. You know,
Right.
it's just a weird sentence to say, but if it's meant to be this weird futuristic landscape where there's super mutants and shit walking about, I prefer that it not be set in a real place. You know,
I
it's
enjoy the fact
it's
that...
a weird hang up.
Yeah. I get it. You want to go, if you're going to have a fantasy, you want to be a real fantasy. Like, you want to go out and do new things and not just have, like, weird tacked on references to the real world and then try and rerun it through the lens of whatever nightmare scenario you're in. I get that.
Yeah,
Yeah. I just enjoy the idea that the world becomes a shithole and then there's, like, 20 people who are like, we can make a difference.
Yeah.
And then you murder half of them.
Come on, guys, we can do this. Yeah, yeah. I'll wait and see because I think Outer Worlds is on Game Pass, so I'll probably boot that up on the PC and play that soon.
That's how I got it, and it does run very well on PC. I'll give it that.
Yeah, I'll probably just put it on the PC because my Xbox controller packed in recently. I don't know if you've heard of Joy-Con drift for Nintendo Switch.
No.
Right, what happens is the analog sticks will just constantly drop to the bottom. So if you're trying to hold it center, it will just keep pointing down. So if you're scrolling through menus without touching down on the Joy-Con analog stick, it will just drop.
So are we talking about the Joy-Con itself, like the actual nub, the little controlling part, physically
No.
dropping down, or just it naturally, like the electronic part of it drifts down?
Yeah, as in, if it's controlling something on screen, the cursor will just drop down. And it's been happening quite a lot. My Xbox controller has started doing it. So I was trying to play Bloodstain Ritual of the Night, and my character just kept pointing down. I was like, okay, what the fuck is this? So I paused it and tried to go into the menu. So yeah, my Xbox controller is absolutely fucked, and I blame Dragon Ball Fighters. Played that game for about 6 weeks straight, and I think it just fucked my Xbox controller.
That is one thing I will say about fighting games, is that your controller takes a hell of a beating.
Yeah, which is why for Smash Bros. I will only ever use one of two controllers. All the other controllers are still in the box and will be kept in good nick. I don't want to break them.
Find and use a disposable controller. Preferable one you didn't pay too much money for.
Oh yeah. I mean, I recently found an absolute steal. I found a Nintendo official wireless controller for the GameCube, which is called a Wavebird, and there was not many of these things made. And I found
remember those, yeah.
Yeah, they're fucking great controllers. I love them. No input latency on them. It was clean. There was no coffee stains or anything on them. And it was in its box, and it was 30 quid. And I was like, fuck yeah, I'm buying that. That thing does not get used for Smash. It stays in its box and only gets brought out occasionally.
We bring this out for new Zelda titles and nothing else.
We bring this out for Wind Waker, Majora's Mask, and Ocarina of Time. All the other times, it stays in its box.
No, I feel you on that one. Like, if you're having to flush, I guess, like, what, 30, 40 quid a go, if you keep breaking controllers, I'd be very protective of them too.
Yeah, although the Xbox controller, I don't know why they're not cheaper than they are. Xbox controller still runs you about 50 quid.
Because they can charge you
still
50 quid for it. With a PS4 controller, I understand, because they've put a lot of weird stuff in there, like with the touch panel. For an Xbox controller, I don't know. I think they charge you that because they can.
Yeah, it's a bit weird. Although, I don't know. I don't know if I want to go pre-owned on the Xbox controller or just break the cash out and buy one brand new. I think I'm going to go brand new because my Xbox One is pre-owned. So hopefully, if I get a new controller, I get a bit more out of it.
Yeah. The next thing I saw on the games list was I've put a bunch of the smaller indie stuff, so I think Everwild might have technically been in here before this. But the next big title I saw was Avowed, which is that first-person strategy or first-person RPG.
Yeah, another middle finger to Bethesda. Start sitting going, fuck you, we're going to make our own Skyrim and it's going to be better.
We'll make Skyrim with the Balrog and it'll be much better. Because I guess you caught the Lord of the Rings reference.
Yeah.
Yeah, with a wizard with a sword in his hand standing in front of a bridge with a glowing demon appearing from a hallway. I wonder what they could be emulating there.
Yeah, I wonder what they're going for. Even the font that they used was quite Tolkien. But
yeah.
Going back to Everwilds, I kind of like the look of that. It looked a bit Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yeah, I have it up next, but I have Avowed on here, and I just think
Cool.
I'll be interested in that. I quite enjoy that style of gameplay for like Dark Messiah of Might and Magic. That's the one thing that springs to mind for me, and I'll be interested to see if someone can make a very good game of that. I miss playing Skyrim and having fun with that game, but I've played it too much and I'm done. I'm worn out. So if you can give me a good game like that, I'll go for it.
I mean, I'm looking forward to playing Avowed, but at the same time, I have never once thought, man, I could play some Skyrim right now. I never got into the premise of Skyrim.
You never? No, did you get into Oblivion?
Nope, I didn't like
right.
Oblivion.
I loved Oblivion, and I think that carried over into Skyrim to the point
Yeah.
where I was willing to overlook some of the game's faults. And I get to punch dragons, so win-win, really.
Oh yeah, dude, I used to get raked over fucking hot coals for saying that I didn't like Skyrim. I remember when Skyrim was just about to come out back in the 360 days. I spoke to a friend of ours about it, and he said, "Oh, you getting Skyrim?" I went, "You know what? Skyrim doesn't look that good to me. I think it looks kind of shit." And this person literally threatened to rip my throat out. I just said, "I'll rip your fucking throat out for saying Skyrim looks shit."
I
went,
just
"Well, I just
realised who you're talking about, and I know exactly who it is. I realised who you're talking about, and I know who it is.
Yeah, and since I'm still good friends with him. I think even at that point he just thought he was joking.
Yeah,
But yeah, he sounded very serious. I was like,
it's
dude, I just
not
don't
that
think it
great a
looks that
game.
good.
I
I just don't think it looks that good. It looks shit. Right, I get people love Skyrim, and you're very, very, very much allowed to like Skyrim, but I don't think it looks good. I don't think it's as game breaking a game as people think it is.
It's for the 360 at the end of its shelf life. It was okay. It was a good game. It was the most you could get out of a 360. When it hit Xbox One and next gen consoles, and then PC, it got
At least
better.
you could get out of a PS4.
It was still like it was okay. It was an upgrade. It was a graphical upgrade to a Bethesda game, but by that point we'd found every last bug and then found that they'd fixed none of it when it got moved over. And then the fact that it'll be on the next generation and my fucking toaster will be just a joke till the end of time.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you could get it working on a Game Boy at this point.
I think
Get an old
someone
school-
has it working on a fridge. I'm not joking. I think someone found a way to play it on a fridge.
Oh, one of those fridges with the inbuilt iPad things.
Yep.
Dude, I am not surprised.
So
Not
yeah,
surprised.
there was the smaller indie games that we had. Well, I say they're indie, but they're all Microsoft backed studios.
Yeah.
But I look at them and I think of indie games, stuff like Everwild, which was pretty interesting. I'm curious to see what it is. Like, I don't know what the game is, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know what the game's going to be about, but at the same time, the presentation's enough to get me interested.
Yeah. Unlike, I would say, like, if you want to talk about like a cool looking visual, but then I know what the game is, the gunk really drew my attention.
Yeah, that looks like
Kind of
kind
like
of Ghostbusters.
I was thinking more
Come-
like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids or Ratchet and Clank, but with parkour and sucking up gunk.
Yeah,
And
actually, not Ghostbusters. It's more kind of Super Mario Sunshine, because you have to just kind of hoover up all the gunk, or in
Yes.
Super Mario Sunshine, you sprayed away all the ink. It does kind of look like that.
yeah, Super Mario Sunshine is a much better analogy. I like that, and I like again. Part of what I want to talk about later on is visually that game looks stunning.
Yeah.
Like in terms of like its high contrast, the darkness of the gunk contrast to the light that pops through when you open certain areas. Like it's designed to look like amazing. And yeah, I know we're looking at trailers and say, "Oh, it looks so gorgeous," because it's a tailor made thing to sell you the game. It's optimized and polished to an insane degree to be ready on the global stage on a 4K broadcast on YouTube. But again, like just if the game looks half as good as that, I'll be happy.
What was the game that was actually Honey, I Shrunk the Kids? We have to battle through gardens and fight giant ants and spiders and shit.
There was Sarge's War. There's like
No, this was on the showcase.
there was a game on the showcase like that.
Yeah, there was literally
I missed that.
something like the trailer was, "You're waiting for the best game of the year," or "You're looking for the biggest game of the year." Well, wait for
yeah, shit, I missed that.
I can't remember the name of it, but I thought, fuck that. If I'm playing that game with anybody and they leave me to spiders, I will burn their house down.
I love that so much. Work together as a team, or feed your mate to the spiders. You just kick him into a spider's mouth. I was like, damn, that's a dank joke. that's
Anyone does that to me, we're not friends anymore. I will punch you in the arm and walk out.
Oh yeah, I remember that now. That should have made the list because I was very I like it. It reminds me of, say, like Army Men Sarge's War. I like that thing. There's a game kind of gradually making its way through production. I'm part of the subreddit for it called Plastic, and it's the same idea, just Army Men Sarge's War. Like, you just take war but make it tiny, and it's interesting. And I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, but that one, whatever that magic game was, again, like it's a weirder idea. It's from a smaller, more independent studio that Microsoft just happens to be funding. I think that really should have made the list of these. Then there was As Dusk Falls and Tell Me Why, which I thought of as being a lot more. There was a studio involved in Tell Me Why that made a very similar game, and I just couldn't get behind it. It's one of those very kind of narrative driven. It's the exact thing you think of when you think indie games. It's narrative driven. It's about emotional discovery and coming over past trauma, and I can feel myself rolling my eyes at it. But it's on Game Pass. I might check it out. I
Yeah, I'm
can't.
not a fan of those types of games because I remember there was one. I think it was called A Day in the Life or That's Life, and it was made by Square Enix, and it was very much another one of those kind of emotional discovery, dramatic games. And I thought, no, I'm not really into this. Then there's another one called I Am Setsuna. I'm like, dude, why are so many of these games being made? Then I
Yeah,
realized they sell well, just not to me. Will you
yeah.
fuck off? Oh,
The game I was thinking of is Life is Strange.
Life is Strange.
Yeah,
That's the fucking name of
it's
it. Not
developed by
that.
the same people who are doing Tell Me Why, and I
Yeah.
know that because immediately I saw some of the character movement for Tell Me Why, and there was just something about the way the heads kind of jerk a little bit. There's something just a little bit off, and I saw it and I was like, that is exactly like Life is Strange. I don't know what it was. I just immediately coded, like clicked into like who's running the character models, and yeah, I couldn't figure out what it was, but something just immediately said, "Tell Me Why" was a game by those people. Again, not interested in it that much, but if you give me it for air quotes free, I'll probably play it.
Yeah, if it's included in a pass of other games, and yeah, I might look it up. I think Life is Strange was just. It was definitely not my type of game. I'm not a fan of that style.
It was it. Everyone knows the one friend that played Life is Strange and who wouldn't shut up about it. And we're like, I don't care. I'm playing Gears of War. Shut up.
Yeah,
I'm
that
chainsawing weird monsters from the center of the earth. Leave me in peace.
the person who I linked the video to you before
Yeah.
the show, they were the person in my sort of friends group that kept talking about Life is Strange. And at that point, I had just started playing Resident Evil 2 remake. And he was like, "Oh, dude, it's so good, man. You need to play it." And I'm like, "I'm cutting zombies in half with machine guns and shotguns. I will not play your emotional game. I will play my zombie game.
I will say
Wait
though,
for the zombie game since I was a child."
the trailer for As Dusk Falls were really interesting to me because I like not so much the actual gameplay. I don't think this is gonna be my type of game either, but
Yeah.
watching them make it was fascinating. They've got this weird process of having people mocap their way through the scenes, but then they take stills of it and then paint on the character models, and it's so weird to see that image because you look at the even just the press releases for As Dusk Falls, and like it's a really
Was
strange.
Asterisk Falls the one that kind of looked like a comic?
Yes, it's got a
Yeah, that
really
one.
weird blend of being very obviously like it's clearly a painted image, digitally
Yeah.
painted, but it looks really photorealistic. There's
See,
the
for me, that kind of looked almost like. Have you ever heard of a film called Ever heard of a film called A Scanner Darkly with
vaguely.
Keanu Reeves? That kind of looked. It was basically the same kind of style,
Yeah.
like, all recorded, but and that kind of had this weird kind of comic book art style cover over it, and it was a really good film. And I kind of thought if it's anything like that, or that's the thing that they're going for, it may be worth picking up. But
Wait,
I think it's
did they rotoscope over the top of the actors?
yes.
Oh, interesting. A Scanner Darkly,
So
you said. That's
yeah,
going
A
on the
Scanner
list.
Darkly with Keanu Reeves. I think RDJ's in there somewhere.
Probably.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a good film. I thought if it's in like that, I might pick it up. It'll be one of those games where I will wait and see what it's going to be like through YouTube videos. I'm not going to jump into it immediately. I want to see what the gameplay is like, because the one downfall with these Xbox and PlayStation events is that they don't show a lot of gameplay,
Yeah.
which is kind of annoying. They do show a bit of gameplay, and what gameplay is that they do show is enough to make me think, okay, that looks interesting. That could be a good game.
Yeah. And I just took a look at A Scanner Darkly, and yeah, you're exactly right. It is that weird, like rotoscoped look that it has, and I like
Yeah.
it. Um,
It's cool. It's a good movie. I
fun.
haven't seen it in years. what I remember, it looks pretty cool.
Fun bit of trivia as a Lord of the Rings fan. Do you know there's a really old rotoscope version of the Lord of the Rings?
Yes, by Ralph Bakshi.
It is amazing. It's so weird. But
Do
yeah,
you know who played Aragorn in that?
no, is it still
John
Viggo
Hurt.
Mortensen? John Hurt.
John Hurt,
Shit.
yeah.
I'm gonna go rewatch that. That's right. Podcast over. Fuck it. John Hurt is Aragorn. We're away. We're busy, kids.
You can tell that it's John Hurt when it's Aragorn because there's fight scenes where they rotoscope in real people, and they've just got the actors playing their characters in the rotoscope, so the camera zooms right in on John Hurt's face as a goblin or something's going to attack him. You didn't bother trying to hide this. That is just John Hurt.
Other than that, the only things I saw was there is a new Forza game in the works. They're
Looks
remastering.
good, but from what I've been told, but because my brothers are huge Forza fans, the games always look spectacular in trailers, but then when it comes to the gameplay, there is nothing to differentiate it from the game that came previously.
Yeah.
It's just kind of the same shit, new cover.
Well, that's inconvenient because apparently they're remastering Forza Horizon 4 as well.
Yeah, if they're remastering that, from what I've been told, you're better just sticking with 4.
Yeah, because I
Unless
love
they do
Forza Horizon 4. I really did
Revolutionary
blast.
with the new one.
And then you have Ori and the Will of the Wisps getting a remaster as well.
It's such a good game.
And one thing that, like, both the Forza and the Ori game they talk about was that they're going to work on audio improvements as well. Like, it's not just a visual thing. They're wanting to, apparently something going on in the Xbox where it's working with more kind of 3D type of sound. Like, they're just going to try and tailor the way sound is produced by Xbox games to so that if it's... Well, that's my question about this was going to be, do you think we'll see a difference coming out of TV speakers, or would we need like some kind of home surround sound system or headphones to appreciate it?
I think we're going to have to definitely have to beef up our sound systems, because when I went for an interview, and the interview lasted 8 hours, which is weird. It kind of seemed like they were trying to get a full day's work out of me, and in PC World, and I had to basically go to the shop floor and try and sell a couple of TVs. And the first thing they tell you is no matter what TV you buy, no matter how good and high spec the TV is, the sound quality is going to be shit.
Yes.
The speakers are going to work, but the sound quality is going to be shit. So try and sell them a sound bar or a surround sound system, because it's going to enhance the viewing experience. So I can imagine that with Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5 being native 4K or having native 4K, there's going to be a lot of need. There's going to be a big need for people to upgrade their sound system so they can get the full experience out of their consoles, you know?
Which I will recommend, actually. I have my speakers that I have hooked up to my TV. I will say that I noticed a change in like how movies feel based on the like having a better quality sound system, because as you say, the sound built into a television is functional but not great. It gets the job done barely.
The piece.
What'd you say, sorry?
So having it just through the speakers on the television, it'll work, but it's not the optimal version.
If you enjoy movies and enjoy TV shows and big bombastic performances, I'd actually recommend some kind of improved sound system. I don't know how good sound bars are. I know my brother has one, and when we watch movies at his place, it's really good. I really enjoy it because it is just a bigger, bassier system, and I just love me some bass. So,
I did have a sound bar in this house, but it was abused because I had Bluetooth. It was abused for Spotify.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Although I'd be more worried about someone accidentally like turning on porn. You wouldn't want to be in the room when that happens. I've never had that happen, but it is a thing that I would dread.
No, it's never happened in my house, but it did happen when I was over at a cousin's house for a party. And the person whose birthday it was, they just turned 16. They just got a new iPhone 8.
Right.
So it just disappeared, and it hit a couple of buttons, and it just flashed up on their smart TV, connecting to, cousin's phone.
Yeah.
And then it was just the angriest ball slapping sex, and it was like, I just kind of looked at. Everyone looked at me for some reason. I'm like, dude, this fucking was not me. I'm in the middle of the room. Why would I put on porn? And then
That's one where you get to look. This is my phone. You can see clearly. There's nothing on my phone.
Look, there's nothing on my phone. You can see my background. You can see the background.
See, nothing going on here. I can prove it.
You cheap bastards are not giving me the Wi-Fi password, so I am not connected to the Wi-Fi.
If I could stream you, bat pussy, I would.
I don't think I would, but
My one question though, and this is mainly raised by Ori and the Will o' the Wisps, was that one thing they pointed to was the fact that they can now push their game to 120 frames per second because of the power of the Xbox One, and that they can tweak and tailor things and just refine it as much as possible to get every last frame out of there. I only have one question though. How many TVs do you know that can run at 120 hertz?
none.
I went digging, and you got to shell out about $1,000 for a TV that does that.
Even 4K TVs only do 60.
Yeah, 60 is fairly standard, and it's actually a very, like, if you have never gamed at 60 frames per second, the switch up is noticeable, and it is great to play at 60 frames per second, but I don't see the difference you'd get at 120. Like, there will be a difference, but I don't know that many people who are equipped to go at 120.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to be really trained to see the difference in it. Because personally, I have watched 4K 160, 4K 60 FPS streams and 1080 60 FPS streams, and I don't see a fuck ton of difference between the two. The 4K might be a bit brighter, a bit sharper, but all in all,
I can see a
pay that
difference
much
between
attention to
4K and 1080. It's quite. It takes a bigger screen to notice it, but refresh rates is where I struggle because I think I just cap out at 60. Maybe I've just not been experienced enough with it because I don't have. Like, I limit my gaming to 60 frames per second because that's my monitor's limit, and everything on my PC just auto set to 60. So I run at that, and everything I film and record is 60 frames per second. So I'm used to that. But I don't think I've seen enough 120 hertz footage to really know what the difference would be. I'm guessing it's important for fighting games. I'm guessing if you could get 120 hertz out of a fighting game, you would want that. And
I
then
think you would, because I suppose it gives you more active frames to lead into doing some cool combo shit. But at the same time, 60 FPS is more than enough. 60 FPS is a luxury. I think everyone would just prefer comfortable 30. Maybe 4K 30 FPS would be fine.
I mean, I'll
60
take
frames
4K 60 if you can make it consistent.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's the big takeaway for me is, yeah, if I drank every time they said 60 frames per second, I'd have died.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'd rather the game play well than it, look well.
Yeah, if something is mechanically unsound, but is pretty, it's just, it being pretty doesn't make up for it, you know.
Yeah, I mean, look at Days Gone on the PS4. That game was a really good looking game. Played like arse though.
Yeah.
Played like absolute arse.
And then contrast that to 7 Days to Die. Like, I don't think that might be one of the ugliest games most people have ever played. Going back to its earlier alphas is almost unviewable. But they had a functioning game that was there and it worked. It did the job. And then now with Alpha 19, they've just released like a couple weeks back. I've enjoyed it so much more because now that they've got the mechanics down, they've taken the time to change the lighting, and everything looks so much better. I was playing it with Ross and Jamie, and we were going, "Oh my god, this game is good now! Like, this is a good-looking game." The lighting changes how the trees look, changes how the zombie models look. They've went and had to rework a bunch of textures to make it work properly. But at the same time, like, I enjoy being in this world now because they had the core mechanics down and understandable, and then went back to fix the visuals. And I'd take that over a pretty broken game any day.
Like, see, when it comes to games looking great, I'm probably not the best person to ask because Resident Evil 2 on the PlayStation 1 or GameCube is my favorite game of all time, and that's not a good looking game. It looks great for the time, but it's not a good looking game nowadays.
Yeah.
So I'd rather the game be fun and play well than it looks fucking stellar. I mean, look at Golden Sun on the Game Boy Advance, one of the best RPGs of all time. Character models in the overworld look like ass, and the attack animations kind of look a bit choppy, but I still play that game end to end over a week as opposed to playing buggy, barely functional, occasionally glitch through the ground COD Warzone.
Right. I was just waiting for you just name dropping Skyrim there, just because you said RPG.
Yeah. Because I've seen some footage of COD Warzone where it looks like the character's going to land on a building and their parachute just coasts them through the building and they fall through the world.
Interesting.
Yeah, despite the fact that COD Warzone is a 90 gig game that has 60 gigabit update patches.
Yeah.
I've heard some people on the 500 gig PlayStations and Xboxes can literally only have that and maybe 2 other small games.
Yeah.
Because it takes that much fucking space.
It's a weird one. And I'm glad I'm out of Call of Duty before that hit. Because I would be bitching up a storm.
Yeah, I was done with Call of Duty at Modern Warfare 2, if I'm being honest. I was like, this game's not fun.
Yeah. Anything else you noticed in the conference? Anything else you want to highlight?
I do kind of want to talk about PSO2 New Genesis.
Oh, right. I keep forgetting about that one. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. I mean, there's not much else I can say about Phantasy Star Online 2. I'm a huge fan of Phantasy Star Online. I used to play it after school when I was waiting for my parents to come home. Neighbours would watch me for a couple of hours. They had the Dreamcast Online subscription. So I asked them, can I make a character? And absolutely. Every so often, I would just chip away, do some missions, and it was fun as fuck. I loved it to death. Then, years later, I found out about PSO2. This was in the early to mid 2000s, and I kept saying, I kept looking up when's this coming to the West, when's it coming to the UK, EU, and nothing. There was workarounds and download this patch and download this version of the game and it'll run on your system. And I was always, at that point, I never had my own PC.
Mm-hmm.
It was always the family PC. I'm like, I'm not going to bring in all that shit because I'll get fucking balled out or something.
Yeah.
After years of waiting, we got shitty, very, very bad PSO games on Xbox 360, and I think there was a few on PS3, and they were just fucking awful. Phantasy Star Universe is a bad game. It tries to be Phantasy Star Online. It tries to be Phantasy Star Online in terms of missions and shit, and tie in some weird, fucking annoying story. Yeah, it was annoying. So when I heard that PSL2 came out, I was like, oh, cool, great. I'll get a chance to play this. But the Windows Store kept fucking me over.
You explained this to me before we started recording. I'm still in shock of what you said. Please explain to the listeners why it wouldn't work.
It wouldn't work because there was some program that was needed to run the Windows Store so you could download the game was preventing the game from working on my PC. And this is not the first time. I'm not the only person this has happened to. This has happened to a lot of people to the point where they've had to download the PSO2 Tweaker and the PSO2 Trapper programs so that the game will work flawlessly on your Western PC. Apparently, it doesn't really work great on consoles. It doesn't really work great on the Xbox. Because that was going to be my thing afterward. Because it has crossplay. I was just going to jump over and play it on my fucking Xbox. But nah, apparently it doesn't work great on Xboxes. So when I seen that New Genesis was coming out, I was like, holy shit, they're fixing some of these bugs. Hopefully it'll be a better download and it won't just be for... it won't just drop for North American and then people in the EU can just pick it up and play it through, very, very shoddy downloads. Then I thought, why do PSO2 again and do it better when you could just say, right, PSO2 happened, some people played it, some people had fun with it. Let's just jump straight to PSO3. Let's take these high updated graphics for the Xbox Series X and Windows Store. Let's just do PSO3. But it is what it is. I will definitely play it because I had fun with the 6 hours that I managed to squeeze out of Phantasy Star Online 2. Not because that's all the content that's in the game, that's all the content I could get out of the game because it kept crashing on my PC. So, massively looking forward to PSO2 New Genesis, and for me, that's where the conference ended because I could not give less of a shit about Fable.
I forgot to bring up Fable, and I'm okay with the Fable series. I liked 1 and 2. I thought 3 was a shit show. Was not a fan of 3. Was not a fan of the fact that I figured out how to break 3 without talking to anyone, because I'm an idiot. But I heard in advance, at the end of 3, you have to decide between money and saving people. And I was like, okay, well, that's an interesting choice. It wasn't. But then I realized...
Save people for money. Ever thought about that? Maybe you can save people for money.
Yeah. Someone should make a career out of that and then make movies about it. Then I found out that, wait a minute, I can just break the economy of this game and have both. So what I can do is you have to have a certain amount of money in the treasury, which you can do through investing, which you is part of the game. Like you can go through and invest and just you can rack up tons of money, invest in a bunch of businesses, go around collect all your money, put it into your private bank, and then shift it in your castle from the private bank to the public bank, and then you have that as a reservoir of money to use to save the to basically beat the game, and you can do it for like 12 million jewel or 12 million crown, which is actually pretty doable. Because there's a time skip at the end of the game that's like 3 years, and all the investments continue to run, so you keep gaining interest. And if you just have enough investments in like every town, you just spend the last like 5 minutes of the game running to every town, gathering up all your cash, running back to the castle, putting it in the giant cave of money that you've been gathering, and you have enough money to save all the people and not lose enough money, because by the time you're done with the final boss, another time skip happens for another like year or so, and you can go back and grab all the money again, and you have enough money to complete the game. Nobody gives a shit. I figured that one out, and I'm an idiot. But yeah, if there's another Fable, I mean, I guess I'll give it a go. It's the last, or it's the newest one since Fable 3, because there was some Fable stuff that came out we don't speak of.
Yeah, there was Fable Connect or some shit.
We said we don't speak of it, Dom. We just said we don't speak of it.
Fuck you. I'll talk about it all I want.
But I think
I think for most people, the ship on Fable has well and truly sailed. I don't think the fans are really sticking about for much more.
Here's the thing, though. The world is still charming enough. If it's still written with the same tone, I will go back there, because it is very quaint. It's not for everyone, but I do enjoy it. And also Stephen Fry's voicing in it, or voice acting again, so that's nice.
Adam Pegg and Nick Frost were in it as well, weren't they?
Yeah. Like it's a little who's who of just like various English actors for Fable 3.
It's a very charming English fantasy setting.
Yes, it is, my lord.
Yes, my lord, we are good people.
We are
I'm a cunning man, my lord.
We are but humble country bumpkins, sir. We do nothing out of sorts. I enjoy being in that world and then just pulling out a flintlock pistol and blowing everyone away. It's quite fun. But I don't know where Peter Molyneux is involved in this, and that gives me hope, because Peter Molyneux develops games by just promising you everything and then just shoving whatever he can fit in the disc and then just throwing it at you and saying, "Be grateful, peasants." But as far as I'm aware, Lionhead Studios dissolved a couple of years back, and this is now being handed over to a team that developed Forza games. So that's interesting.
Yeah, we'll wait and see on that one, because whenever someone brings up that, I just think of the Anthem pass off when it went from DICE development to back to EA, and it just bounced about, and then who was it? BioWare, just they were brought in to finish it. Then the guys who made FIFA were tasked to come in and give them a hand. It just became this massive shit show. So
that's true, but I think this has been developed from day one by the same people. Like, I think this isn't like a random shift. The guys from Lionhead Studios have been gone for years now. Microsoft owns the IP and gave it to a team and said, "Go," a couple of years back. I think that's what's going on. But again, I have no actual information to corroborate that.
I mean, I hope so. I mean, I hope my scenario never comes to pass. But
no one wants another Anthem.
I don't think the people who made Anthem want Anthem again.
They're going to try, though. They're going to keep trying to make that Destiny money back. But they're not going to make it.
Yeah. I don't think it will. I think Anthem is just well and truly dead. I think they even shut down the servers.
I'll need to check on that, but it does sound like something that might have happened, and we've just missed it because no one gives a shit.
Yeah, I don't think anyone is ultimately bothered about Anthem anymore. But yeah, getting back to the Xbox event, because I just checked the time. But was there much else that you picked up from the Xbox event? Because for me, my takeaways were they're still not giving us price points, which has got me kind of worried.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're trying to maybe build up a bit of good favour before they bust it and say, and it's £1,200.
I heard a lot of obviously, but the wish list price is 600. That's not happening.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
sorry.
Where it's going to be.
Based on the tech that's in there, it'll be weird to have them try and release it as maybe as like part of a launch day bundle, but the average price of this really should be closer to 650, at least.
I've heard on the upper end people saying that the Xbox Series X is going to be about 800, which I just think, nah, there's no way in fuck they would charge 800 for a console. I think 600 is like the upper limit of where I think it could be. But for the PlayStation 5 and the PlayStation 5 digital, I think they were talking about 550 for the PlayStation 5 with the disc tray and 450 for the all digital, which I think if that is the prices that they're basing that off, Series X are probably run about 400.
Yeah, because that
Because
is
they always
part
try to
of.
get just under PlayStation 5 in terms of pricing.
And for those of you not that familiar with console pricing, the price is so important. It basically sank the Dreamcast. Sega had a great console, very powerful. Should have had a lot of hope in it, and then Sony came out with a PlayStation that was £100 cheaper, and the Dreamcast was dead the next day.
Yeah, I think the Dreamcast came out and it was $299, and there's a famous video of the Sony executive walking up, putting down his paper, and just going $199 and walking away, or something like that.
Yeah, it's you watch that footage and you're like, what just happened? But then you realize the context and you're like, oh, he just killed the company. Okay,
Yeah,
nice.
He just shot Dreamcast in the head, which is a shame because the Dreamcast stuff it was light years ahead of its time. It was a great wee console.
Right, I think that wraps up the Xbox conference.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Like, I'm optimistic. I like where this is going. I appreciate the emphasis on narrative gameplay, but I think that's part of the initial launch strategy, which is that we have the next generation of really powerful consoles. I think it's really hard to tell or to show the power of your console in like a Call of Duty game. I don't think you can have it run that type of game and look good. Whereas you can have a narrative game, get all the kind of good boy points for making narrative games come back again, and then you can also shove in a bunch of cinematic moments that really make your console shine. It's a great advertising strategy in a way for the games or for the console as the games come out and say, look how good this looks. And then in a couple of years, when we see a couple of first-person shooters start to creep in there, I expect there'll be like a Call of Duty remaster that will make it along with the launch titles. But other than that, I mean, most people just have like a Fortnite or a Battle Royale game that they carry over to the next generation of consoles.
I think one thing that's going to carry over from this console generation to next gen is the remaster remake climate. I think that's going to follow them in because there's going to be so many.
Yeah.
I don't. What the hell? Backwards compatibility is going to be a thing from the get go. I think for Xbox it's going to be. I think Xbox have got that technology down to an art. I don't think PlayStation have. I think PlayStation fans are going to be lucky if they get natural PS4 backwards compatibility. Whereas with Xbox Series X, I think they're going to have all the backwards compatibility from the start. Because they did it on Xbox One. You can play Xbox games, you can play 360 games from the get go.
Yeah, I think we'll see them do something like that. I don't know how many 360 games will make the jump, but I think they'll try and get them most of them there. But yeah, I think this is a good strategy of just great cinematic showcase, and then also people say, "Oh, look at them being so artistic." You know, maybe, yeah. But I think that the talk about the Game Pass to wrap it all back to there. I think that the Game Pass model is a great way of using like those smaller studios to make that type of game, because I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't pay for some of these games. Like I wouldn't pay the full £60 for something like Everwild or The Gunk or As Dust Falls. But again, like I'll pay a subscription fee to maybe play those games.
Yeah,
as part of a larger program.
And that's the thing. I think Game Pass, because it cycles games in. I think more often than not, it keeps the games in the games library. But if the game happens to cycle out.
It takes a while for them to cycle out. I think it's like a 9-month or like 10-month cycle.
Something like that. It kind of works a bit like Netflix. It'll be there for a good chunk.
Yeah.
But then it'll disappear, and that's natural. They need to cycle out games.
Yeah.
At the same time, if £15 a month, and you play, I'll give you an example. If you play a game called Hollow Knight, which is a fantastic, really thematic. There's not really a great focus on out and out lore. You can find bits of lore, and the world itself kind of tells you the story. But it's a Metroidvania type game. Did I say the name? Hollow Knight?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. If people can play that on Game Pass, then go, you know what, that game's fantastic. I'm gonna go and pay I think it's $14.99 for that game. That's a great thing because I think I was watching a video by Alana Pierce, and she was saying that this actually helps the overall sale of uh, indie games because people are getting interaction with these games. They're getting money. The developers are getting money from that. But then off the back of that, indie developers are experiencing an increase in sales because people who are playing on Game Pass are buying the game anyway because you think, oh, that game's good, I'm going to support it.
Yeah.
Like what I'm doing with Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. I played that on Game Pass and it's a fucking phenomenal game. It kind of chugs dicks on the Xbox though. I've heard that the Xbox and PS4 versions are a bit wonky. The Switch version's a bit wonky, so I'm playing it on PC just to kind of keep up with it. But I will gladly, once Game Pass goes, I will be buying Bloodstained Ritual of the Night physical copy on whatever console I can find it on.
I think as well, like there is the virtuous part of it where people say, I want to support this medium, I want to support these developers, and they go and buy it as a separate game on top of buying it or having it as part of Game Pass. But I think there's also that kind of the fear of it going away. So you'd have somebody say maybe play it on the PC or play it on an Xbox, and then say, I really like that game, but it might disappear, it might cycle out eventually. So I'll go and buy it on Steam when it's on sale. So I think as well there's like a bit of a boost in sales in that regard as well.
Yeah. I think that I don't know if that's a good thing though, because people go, "I'll wait till a sale." But either way, if it gets people buying games that they wouldn't normally buy or playing games they wouldn't normally play, I think that's a good thing ultimately because people are picking up these great titles that because it's not a big budget title that's usually thrown in their face like a Call of Duty or a Fortnite or a Halo or a Final Fantasy or Last of Us, whatever the hell it could be. If they get introduced to that game through Game Pass, then Game Pass is worth its weight in gold.
As long as the studios are getting their fair share of money and are getting enough to not just survive but make themselves bigger and better and to do what they want to do next, I'm all for it. I really am. I think it's an interesting business model. I was very skeptical of it, but I think it must have worked out. They keep doing it. Microsoft will drop a project if it sucks. Let's be honest.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
I just hope to Christ that we don't get I'd try to take this in a more horrible route, but I hope to fuck we don't get an article in a couple months' time just saying Game Pass gives no money to developers and it is worth absolutely fuck all to Microsoft, so they're shutting it down. I hope, or even it's just Microsoft gets 80%.
Yeah, Microsoft has been secretly shafting every studio you love.
To other people. I think that's going to be a shitty, bitter pill to swallow.
Yeah. Speaking of bitter pills, I think it's time for the showstopper.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do this. Is it bit? Hopefully, it's. I'm gonna check you a bit on this one, brother. But is it better than Bat Pussy? Because you weren't really bringing the A material for Bat Pussy.
It's a porno about Batwoman.
You can do better, though, man. You can do better.
It's a bit related to a bitter pill. Let's be honest. This is. We talk a lot about coronavirus and say, with a lot of points, say, look, we are not experts on this. We are barely even literate in this field. So we always say.
Well, I did get a shit ton of bother for calling it C virus recently.
Really?
Yeah. I was talking to someone. I was taking my dog out for a walk. Seeing them, they came over, and they always talk to the dog before they talk to me. But yeah, whatever. My dog's pretty cute. So they're sitting talking to me, and I said, "Yeah, I said something that I thought was completely innocuous. I said, "Yeah, the C virus shit is terrifying. I really hope that I don't catch it." And then they just went into a 5-minute rant about how I'm not taking it seriously. And I just went, "That's just what I call coronavirus. I'm still taking it seriously. I just call it C virus. Why? Because I played too many Resident Evil games. That's why." Motherfucker.
I refuse to fear it enough to give it some weird name that isn't just calling it what it is.
I refuse to call it the Rona.
Yeah, I won't call it that. I'll call it COVID-19 or coronavirus. But so we always say, listen to the experts because they are the people at the front line of this. They have the most up-to-date information. They have the best understanding of the mechanics at play to help get you through the situation that we face right now. Until that, we always agree with those people and just listen to the best advice they have. I come at it from the point of view of having an understanding of science, that a scientist will very rarely give you a definitive statement. they will say it is most likely, it is most probable, it is most likely to help you. You know, they will never speak in certainties because those are the realm of the Sith and idiots. So you have a lot of people who got very annoyed at Dr. Anthony Fauci, who is the head of the kind of task force related to COVID-19. He advises the president, the vice president of the United States, and has been at the forefront of epidemics for about 30 years now. He is the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases for more than 3 decades and has been around working with pandemics and epidemics since AIDS. Let's put that into perspective. This is the career professional, and I actually am a big fan of his approach and how he's been dealing with being the public face of coronavirus in a weird way. Because frankly, I wouldn't trust President Trump to read a fucking napkin, let alone a scientific document. So he has been making a very good point of going on public talk shows, to going on podcasts, making appearances wherever he can. He even went on Philip DeFranco's show way back at the start of the pandemic because Philip DeFranco has a young, engaged audience who might want to know more about what's going on with this weird global pandemic that came out of nowhere and shut the world down. And he has been, obviously, it's a lot of work. He has talked quite openly about the fact that he's exhausted. He is running 20 hours a day on 4 hours sleep, and then just trying to make it to the next meeting to find out the most relevant information and then give that information to the people who need to know about it. And there's been a bit of public back and forth between Fauci and Trump because Trump is a narcissist and doesn't like the idea that someone who can read is getting more attention than him. So there's been a bit of a lover's tiff going on between these two. And Anthony Fauci just seems to have dropped off and just disappeared back into the lab to work on this and works on presidential briefings and making sure that we understand the information. But it hasn't stopped people getting to him. There was a thing that he did recently with a group called the Axe Files podcast, where a guy called Axelrod, apparently that's the name, asked Fauci about how he's been doing as such a public face of the pandemic, and especially with all the people in America have a very pro-economy view of what needs to be done. They don't like the idea of locking down the economy because there will be consequences to locking down everyone's financials and making sure that nobody can basically earn money. This is a stressful time. It's really hurting the economy, and there's concern that the economic shutdown and the hardships that come from that will be even worse than the pandemic, which I don't entirely agree with. I think we can work around and fix that a lot easier than a virus that harms people's lungs. And he went on to talk about the fact that he's seen the public reaction to pandemics for decades now. And he says, back in the days of HIV, I was criticised for some with hate mail, with some people saying he was a gay lover and what the hell is he doing wasting his time on AIDS patients, as if AIDS patients don't deserve care. And he said that the thing is that, like, back then he could say, well, that's just a bigoted person, it's just an idiot saying stupid things, I can just push that to the side. However, now he says that it's an entirely different beast. It's an entirely different animal. He receives, he says, far more hate mail and serious threats than he did for working on AIDS, for working on coronavirus. Because, this is a public servant. He never went in there thinking he'd be the hero. But he didn't expect to receive so much hate. And he says there have been serious threats made against me, my wife, and my daughters. Really, what is this? Is this the United States? And that is in a quote in a CBS News article that I'm using as a reference point here.
So this guy's trying to assist in curing COVID.
Yep, he's part of the
death threats.
He's part of the teams looking into analysis of the virus, how to work on a cure. He is coordinating the research of labs all across the United States. He's looking at the stats for infection rates all across the country, and then he's presenting all of that to the President of the United States, or the Vice President, or the commissions and the groups set up to handle that from the executive branch of the United States government. And he's doing that for the last couple of months. And he's getting death threats for this, because he's suggesting that we take a cautious approach and that we have to lock down the economy to secure people's survival. which is an odd thing to have an issue with.
Hmm.
So he was asked
What
by.
locked in the economy? What is exactly meaning by that? Is he saying we have to sort out the economy before we?
Well, the concern is, I mean, obviously, with our lockdown here in the UK, we've basically shut down on all non-essential businesses. And I've been working because I work in a lab that deals with certain bacteria. We need to stay open. We have had shops have been opened for food. If you sell any kind of food supplies, you've been allowed to stay open. But if you are a closed shop, you haven't been working. If you are a joiner, which my brother is, he works with a company fitting windows. He hasn't been working for months. Their money, we are subsidised by our government, and that's
Yeah.
been okay. It's not great. But the United States is in a much worse position because they have to try and find a way of giving money to 330 million people. So their economy is in there's concerns that the lack of production and people just being given money that ultimately might mean nothing, depending on how the economy turns out.
Mm-hmm.
There might be no value to the money they're being given at some point. So what have they really been given other than a piece of paper? And then the concern there is that the economic shutdown, the stress, the loss of jobs, the loss of revenue, the like having to prioritize certain types of like having to basically cut back on real like normal life might lead those to suicide. That's a serious concern that the economic shutdown would cause suicides to spike. And there's evidence pointing one way and the other way at the same time about whether or not that's actually happening. So there's been a large vocal group, I say a large vocal group, there's been a vocal group in the United States that's been arguing that the economic restrictions have to be lifted, or that the pandemic restrictions have to be lifted to save the American economy. And
You know what you should do at this point, and this is genuinely like the social worker. Well, this is like the youth worker. This is the rugby coach in my brain, thinking, fucking let them. They're going to catch coronavirus anyway. Let them try and boost the economy because they're going to catch coronavirus, and then who are they going to moan to? The same guy that was trying to save them.
yeah, I mean, there is the argument that you find the most at risk, those with respiratory infections, with compromised immune systems, the elderly, and then you basically keep those people in lockdown, and then you allow the young, healthy people to go out and take the risk. That's another argument you can see being posted around. But I honestly, I look at that and say you're willing to put money over human life, really,
Yeah.
because that's what it boils down to: is money versus human life. And some people are very much in favor of money. Those people threatening Dr. Fauci has actually prompted him to take security measures. He actually has been given a security detail, and the Department of Justice confirmed that federal agents have been ramping up security for Fauci after threats were made against him. And this was made at the request of the Health and Human Services Inspector General, who obviously became aware of how bad Fauci was getting it, and then said, we need to give this guy basically a security detail at all times. And it's fucking unreal.
It's disgusting that some people out there value, money over human lives. Because how do you make money? You employ people. You can't employ people if they're all dead because you wanted to open up. You wanted to try and make money. I mean, I'm glad that in Scotland we've slightly put money to the back burner. Like Nicola Sturgeon I think Nicola Sturgeon's kind of having her arm twisted by the UK government as a whole, saying, right, this is what the UK have agreed, you need to do this, and her First Minister going, yeah, sure, okay, we'll do it, but she's trying to kind of put it off for as long as possible, because from what I've heard, we're going to stay in phase 3 for as long as we can, because there's still this fear of a second spike. So if that second spike hits, we're shooting straight back to phase 2, or even go back to phase 1 when we're still locked down, only leave the house for food.
Yeah, and it baffles me that people are really struggling with the idea of a very basic kind of moral lesson of a human life's value is infinite and should not have it shouldn't have a financial level. Like, you shouldn't be able to say, okay, for 3,000 quid, like, it's the same as saying for X thousand I'll kill someone.
Yeah,
That is a question that's being asked of America, and I frankly think they're failing.
yeah. It's a disgusting concept to say, or to even insinuate that human lives have a defined monetary value. Because basically, that's what they're saying. That's what they're saying. That the economy of the United States has infinitely more value than its population, which is a disgusting thing to say.
Yeah.
And I can see why you put that as the showstopper.
Yep, because I'm angry.
It's effective,
I'm,
and it's
yeah,
one of 1,000 reasons as to why I'm not in America. I'm glad I'm not in America right now.
yeah.
And yeah, if you're in America and you own a fucking business, don't put profit over people. Put people in front of everything.
Yeah. Well, I may be angry, but if I think I'm done talking gibberpish. If you want to find us on Twitter, I'm at IronLordTheMad.
I'm at Dom Anderson 25. It's been that long since I've said this. I need to look up what my at Dom Anderson Dom_Anderson 25.
And you can find the podcast at Gibberpish. You can email us at gibberpishpodcast@gmail.com. And in the meantime, we'll see you next time. But we've been talking Gibberpish.